One day, a fierce beast asked a brave warrior that he had neither sharp teeth nor pointed claws what his weapon was. A pack of wolves bared their fangs and glared angrily at the enemy who had strayed into their territory. A huge lizard-like monster sat in the center, surrounded by a pack of wolf beasts intent on disarming it. The lizard looked at the wolves with hatred, sighing heavily as he too had fought a strong opponent before. The pack leader let out a howl that ordered the pack to attack this unknown stranger who had wandered into the night forest. The lizard began to fight the wolves, who began to group attacking him. One grabbing his head, he threw off several others he disarmed with his claws. Blood and sweat, flesh and bone was all that was involved and palpable at this point. The pack leader saw that the enemy was strong. The leader of the wolf pack desperately rushed to follow his other comrades to attack this lizard-like monster. With his claws, the lizard managed to disarm the wolf who attacked him with his huge, sharp fangs. The lizard devoured the breathless bodies of his enemies to regain his strength and also to stockpile them for further battles. The absorbed power of his enemies was his weapon. The beast, which resembled a powerful lizard, declared that it would eat the pack leader as well as the rest of his kin. Beasts with magical energy and abilities, called mystical creatures, that dwelled in the thick of the forest, away from human eyes. Some of these beings were given human form by the gods and were prophets incarnate that served for the good of the people. Among them was also an evil incarnation of that power. Popularly, such beings were nicknamed as demon gods. The huge eye belonging to the power of the malevolent creature sought out a new victim to absorb its power. The boy was running through the forest, hoping to escape the danger he had stumbled upon in the night grove. The young man begged for help, praying for someone to show up in the area and help him escape. Suddenly, a crossbow with a loaded arrow was aimed at the fleeing guy, intending to prevent his escape. The arrow shot at the back of the fleeing man, made him give up this idea, and the shooter was glad that he had hit him accurately. One of the partners pointed out that it was easier than he thought. The shooter agreed with his words, making sure it was a cakewalk. The criminals got rid of the people they had met. The leader ordered the pack to take everything of value because they had to return before sunrise, and they had a feeling that the forest was particularly creepy today. The leader suggested that the rumored monster might be watching them right now. The men came to the bier from the edges of the forest and were confused by what they saw. Some of them grabbed their weapons. Criminals saw many breathless wolf bodies that were scattered throughout the area. One of the men suggested that there was a fight between the wolves for territory. The leader was not sure about that, but he noticed marks of wounds not typical of wolves, suggesting that someone had committed a massacre. Suddenly, the partner asks Martin to come over to him and look at the creature he has discovered. The hunters saw the carcass of a huge mystical creature, next to which a young man sat motionless. The man assumed this big wolf was the leader of the pack. The other asked this for the small guy next to him. The group of men could not believe that this kid could defeat such a huge creature by himself. They laughed at this nonsense. Martin thought the guy had passed away, suggesting they look at what he had valuable to rob. Suddenly, he was bitten on the leg by a small lizard. Trying to protect this guy, the man didn't realize what was wrong with this stupid lizard. The criminal mastermind ordered his subordinate to unhook the lizard from him, and one of the men pulled out a knife in an attempt to get rid of it. Striking a stabbing blow, the man was sure that now he would get rid of that pesky lizard that was biting the commander. Suddenly, the guy stood up and struck at the man who intended to get rid of his lizard. There followed a powerful blow to the face of the criminal, who did not expect that this young man was still alive. They did not understand how he had so much strength. Guy managed to disarm one of the attacking men with a blow to the head. Hans fell motionless to the ground. The angry guy ordered the criminals not to touch his lizard. When they heard his words, they were slightly frightened. The young man grabbed an axe and told the dangerous group that otherwise he would send them all to the other world. The men realized that this cocky guy was getting into a fight. Some of them didn't realize what was going on. The bearded man pointed out that this young man had just sent Hans to the other side of the world without any motive. The guy assured that Hans was alive and still breathing. Martin told the guy that he wouldn't just leave after that. The commander ordered the team to surround this guy. They started to draw their weapons, but the guy asked them not to do such a stupid thing. The guy pointed out to them that if they had those who cared about them, then let them back off and give up their intentions before it was too late. Angry, the young man assured the men that their relatives would not like to see their breathless bodies. Martin didn't listen to his opponent and ordered his team to attack this brazen, threatening guy who was threatening them. Noticing that the group of men did not obey him, the young man prepared to fight them alone. With many lightning-fast blows, he broke through the attacking squad of opponents. The men did not expect him to be so strong. The guy with the lizard on his back was again surrounded by one of them he disposed of with his arm with his tamagotchi. One of the men, noticing the guy fighting, dipped into the greenhouse, comparing him to the rumored monster. Having reloaded the crossbow, the man intended to stop the enemy with arrows, because if he let him get close, he would kill everyone. The crossbowman ordered the guy to stand still and not move, or else they would fire many sharp arrows at him. Noticing their attitude, the guy had no intention of listening to them. The lizard understood his master's mindset to fight to the end. The gunners fired many arrows at the enemy who refused to obey their instructions. The guy grabbed his lizard, trying to cover it from the arrows flying at them. The men were surprised at such an act. A few arrows flew past, but a large number of them definitely hit the body of this guy who hid the lizard. Martin assumed that they had managed to get rid of this guy with crossbow shots. He noticed something he hadn't seen before. An unknown force began to envelop the guy's body. Everything in the neighborhood turned sharply red. From this glow, men were terrified. The previously absorbed souls of this guy began to drain from his body, thus intimidating his enemies. Monster-like heads kept coming out of the body of a guy who intended to change his appearance and heal his wounds. The men didn't know what to expect from this guy who was endowed with non-human powers. They assumed he was a demon god. Suddenly, the guy opened his eyes and his power stopped emanating from his body. His eye gaze became human again. The lizard noticed that his master had failed to realize his plan. The unknown man was watching on a branch of one of the nearby trees without showing them his presence. A group of men managed to take the sang of this guy along with them. They took the huge carcass of the monster and arrived in the village. The man could not believe his eyes from what he saw, for he had never seen such a thing. The village head stood in front of the breathless body of the huge wolf that had been brought to their village, and couldn't believe that the boy had handled it alone. The guy was chained up and placed next to this wolf body. He didn't confront them, realizing that he didn't have enough strength to do so. The lizard tried valiantly to chew through the bars of the cage in which he was imprisoned to then free his master. The boy informed the village head that this wolf carcass had better be burned as soon as possible, or there could be bad consequences. Martin pointed out that for the fire, the guy would be better suited to it, making it clear that they did not intend to listen to him, but the head of the settlement asked him not to make such hasty conclusions. The head of the settlement asked the guy what his name was. The guy introduced himself as Ananta. The man asked him why he did it. Ananta replied that he was hungry, and so he interrupted the bodies of the wolves, and this pack leader glared viciously at the man. The man was shocked to hear Martin suggest that the guy was lying and not worth listening to. Martin reported that he and his team saw it with their own eyes, as this guy suddenly turned into a giant monster. The man asked if the head of the settlement had heard rumors that there was a demon god wandering in their forests who devoured all the breathless bodies in the area. The head of the village stated that no matter what side you look at it from, but this guy man Martin asked him to take a look at the wolf's body. The hunter spoke to the chapter about the bites and lacerations on this wolf's body, asking if that could mean it had mauled him. Martin pointed at the captured guy and said that he was definitely the demon god in the flesh of the man they had managed to capture. The guy smiled back at them. The man asked what funny thing he noticed in their words, and the young man replied that if what they said was true. The boy added that according to their assumptions, he was a creature that devoured its own kind. Martin was creeped out by such words. The young man asked the man if they were sure these chains would be able to restrain him if he did turn out to be a demon god. The captor told the group of men that they had no idea that this creature was a raven flying over their settlement. Suddenly, blood began to flow on the head of the settlement. The man did not understand where it came from on his clothes. Raising his head, which was drenched in blood, the head of the settlement was horrified by what he saw. The huge ox came to life and swallowed Martin, standing next to it. Emitting rivers of blood, they were convinced that this guy was right, but it was too late. Ananta informed the head of the settlement that this wolf was unusual because it served the dark god as its teeth and claws. The sentries at the gate sounded the alarm to report that they were under attack and the enemy was approaching from the forest. A huge pack of wolves were running towards this settlement, where their pack leader was located, and people started to get nervous. The sentry reported that a creepy brat leading a pack of wolves from the direction of the forest. Unknown to them, a creature emerged with glowing eyes from the forest. The settlement was shown a huge, incomprehensible forest monster. They assumed it was really the demon god. The creepy creature pointed his finger at the village, ordering the wolves to head in that direction. The wolves, following his order, began climbing over the tall gates of the settlement, gathering in a pile underneath them. The men grabbed their swords and tried to resist the wolves that had managed to get into their settlement. The beasts spared no one. The fire hit the wooden fences that the wolves were climbing over, causing them to go up in flames. The sea of wolves continued to loom over this settlement in which a fire had started. A huge beast was approaching the village. Suddenly, the body of the head of the wolf pack was thrown out of the fence, right under the feet of the demon god, who stopped when he saw this. An unquenchable thirst for blood and a terrifying hunger again visited Ananth, who began to change his appearance. Ferocious feelings once again took control of the guy. A huge, lizard-like monster head appeared in the village. Destroying the burning wooden fence, the monster walked out to the huge amount of wolf thirst that made him go to such an act. Blood and sweat, flesh and bone were in Ananthan's mind. He signaled that he intended to completely devour this monster that approached the village. He transformed into a lizard-like monster and became hateful, intending to seize the power of the demon god. Behind the monster, a huge passageway formed in the wall of the village that blazed with fierce fire, illuminating the surroundings. Ananta told the monster who came out of the forest that she would torture him till his death. He stood silently against it. The lizard-like monster intended to bring its powerful essence to the sight of its dying victim. The beast stepped on the huge head of the wolf leader. Without sparing that body, he crushed it. The forest beast then screamed furiously, plunging all the creatures near it into a daze. Ananta stood against the powerful creature near the burning village, noticing that more beasts were beginning to approach them. A multitude of flattering beasts, upon hearing the demon god's cry, went into a frenzy and began attacking the village at his behest. With mighty hands, Ananta began to fight against the forest beasts, who found themselves at the mercy of this monster. Ananthan managed to deal with a couple of beasts that were trying to harm him. Then he prepared to make a powerful lunge towards his opponents. The monster-like lizard, with lightning-fast movements, began to get rid of the opponents approaching the main monster that was controlling them. Suddenly, an unknown monster ordered all the defeated to rise as ghosts and continue fighting. The body of the demon god began to be saturated with spiritual power that he received from beings who went to the other world. The forest monster grew in size, preparing to confront Ananthan, who was approaching him. Ananta noticed that his opponent lunged at him. They intended to test who was the stronger of the two. The lizard-like creature managed to deal a powerful blow to the enemy, but he had no intention of retreating and counterattacked. Ananta continued to strike while suffering the damage that went through his body. The survivors could not believe that this was happening in reality. The demon god managed to make a powerful attack on the lizard, which was unable to dodge it in time. Blood spurted from the wound. Ananta grabbed his opponent's limb. The latter didn't realize what his opponent wanted to do by such an act. Lizard Monster held the demon god down and struck a powerful blow with his other hand on his head that crushed his head. Ananta managed to get rid of the creature. He threw away its severed limb, assuming that was the end of it. The guy began to take on the appearance of a man, dissipating the monstrous guise he took towards the breathless body of the defeated man. The creature's body began to decompose, and from its ribcage emerged the appearance of an unknown, human-like creature. The guy completely took human form, approached the body of the defeated. All the other forest beasts scattered after such a thing. The young man noticed that in the body of this monster was a girl who was in an unconscious state. Ananta grabbed her by the neck and pulled her from the breathless body of the monster he had recently fought. The guy was surprised that this deer-eared girl was unconscious from the start and deliberately attacked them. Suddenly, the guy noticed behind him the approach of the enemy who had been watching him all this time and didn't interfere. An unexpected attack from the enemy caused injury to Anant's arm, forcing him to let go of this stranger. Turning around, Ananta saw a huge vulture-like bird that attacked him. The bird sat next to him. The guy realized what was really going on here. He glared angrily at the opponent who flew towards him. The vulture glared at the guy without saying anything to him. Ananta was convinced that this bird was a real demon god, devouring the breathless bodies of creatures. Suddenly, the vulture took human form in front of him, formed a man in plumage who intended to talk to the guy. The man stated that he didn't think his prized dog would ever lose to a kid like this, saying he'd been watching him since he set foot on this land. The demon god didn't have time to speak before the case of the girl who was white in the body of a flattering monster attacking the village flew into him. Ananta stated that he almost fell asleep to his babbling, making it clear that he had no intention of listening to his explanation. The boy indicated that he was not interested in the beast's speeches. The man looked at him thoughtfully. The young man ordered the enemy to attack him confidently, stating that he would send him to the other world. These words amused the demon god. The demon god took the form of a vulture, informing the boy that his powers allowed him to control the souls of departed beings. Griff stated that he would be the one to send Anant to the other side of the world, and he would have a strong new henchman to manipulate. The god of demons ordered the deceased to rise as ghosts and give him all their spiritual powers that were in them. Then from the deceased bodies began to emanate spiritual forces directed to the god of demons. Some of them began to revive and rise to their feet, intending to attack again. This technique also had the same effect on the people who died from the beasts attacking their settlement. Ananta looked around and noticed the rebellious army that the demon god had summoned, and he grew in size. The demon turned to the guy and stated that he would be destroyed and devoured by the army of bloody bodies that had passed away earlier. The resurrected entities attacked the guy, impaling him with spears. The wolves bit his limbs and tried to hold him in place. Noticing that the enemy does not react to the attacks of entities, Demon God assumed that he no longer had any strength left to resist. The Demon God struck his powerful wing that pierced the guy's body and drenched everything in blood. Confident of his victory, the vulture wanted to hear Anant's last cry before he became his puppet. Hearing the words of the god of demons, the guy became funny, because he knew that this is not the end of their fight. The guy began his transformation into a lizard-like monster. A red glow flooded the entire area, and the resurrected entities immediately evaporated. Feeling the strength of the enemy, Demon God did not understand what had happened and how this creature had managed to scatter his minions. The Demon God saw a powerful aura that began to emanate from this creature, heading towards him. Ananta declared that what the enemy had planned would not come true. He intended to listen to his beastly roar. The lizard-like creature let out its bestial roar, plunging the Demon God into a terror he wanted to hide from. Ananta, in the guise of a monster, to devour the vulture who was the Demon God, and devoured the creatures in the area. The Demon God's spiritual powers were absorbed by this guy. He saw many other beings absorbed by this monster. Griff couldn't resist such a force, intending to get out of this state, but everything was even. The girl with deer ears came to her senses before her. A picture of a brutal battle between the strongest monsters rose up. The female character noticed, as Anant's immense aura radiated from his body, she began to take on the appearance of a human. The girl looked at the boy in bewilderment and didn't understand what was going on here because her memory hadn't come back to her. The guy's fierce gaze fell on this girl with antlers, who was horrified by what she saw. Ananta walked towards her. The girl didn't know what to expect from this creature and started to pivot back from him. The guy informed her that she was now free from the Demon God's control and could do whatever she wanted. The antlered girl clutched her head, in which the memories of what had happened to her earlier suddenly came to her. Suddenly, the guy noticed the glowing wings that were somehow connected to this female character. Looking at the girl, the young man could not believe that he had managed to meet such a creature. The girl was embarrassed. Ananta assumed that she too was a victim of the shining wings and asked her about it. The girl was surprised that he talked about wings, she asked, trying to find out the guy's name and who he was. The young man introduced himself to her as Anant, telling her that he was the surviving heir of a black dragon that devoured all demon gods. The girl looked at him with a questioning look, for she could not believe she had met such a creature. The guy added that he would be the one to rid the world of the incarnated wings. His wounds on his body began to heal. Come sunrise, the village began to light up, showing all the horrors it had to endure that night. The girl with the antlers continued to stare at the guy who was beginning to be illuminated by the morning light of the rising sun. Ananthan reiterated that he intends to get rid of the incarnation of wings that has filled this land. The female character began to realize what was happening, but her memory did not fully return, as she had been under the control of the demon god for too long. The girl asked the guy what he was talking about, because she didn't understand anything from the words she heard. The guy heard that this person did not understand anything about the dragon or the incarnation of wings, realizing that he had explained it to her in vain. Suddenly, the deer-eared girl lost consciousness. Ananta realized that she was mentally drained from the abundance of information. The girl plunged into her memories, remembering how she had earlier in the greenhouse escaped from the pursuit of an unknown monster. The girl looked back and was horrified that the monster continued to chase her no matter how hard she tried to hide from it. The forest monster that haunted the girl intended to seize her powers while she was unconscious. The nightmare continued. Suddenly, the deer-horned girl didn't notice the breathless body and fell right into the pool of blood. The reflection of the monster made the girl sink into horror at the realization that a dismal fate awaited her. Lifting her gaze, she saw countless mountains of breathless bodies that flooded the place with their blood. The girl looked at Woi's hands, which were covered in blood. The caught horror made the girl freeze on the spot. Suddenly, a bright light shone on her. Turning around, she saw behind her wings that did not emit cruelty. Then she lost her memory. After a long nightmare, the girl with the antlers managed to come to her senses. She leisurely opened her eyes. The cute girl was pleased that this stranger had finally come to her senses that didn't realize where she was. The young lady with the rabbit ears informed her that she had been tossing and turning the whole time, assuming she was having a nightmare. The girl with deer ears realized that what she had experienced was just a dream. Suddenly, she noticed that Ananta was beside them. Guy motioned for Ruby to begin. The lizard obediently proceeded to carry out her master's instructions. Ruby breathed in more air and began to spew out a powerful flame that began to envelop the insignificant Asna. Using the lizard guy got rid of the breathless bodies of the creatures that died last night. The guy calmly watched as the souls began to dissipate the field as their bodies turned to ash. The girl with the rabbit ears informed the audience that the demon-possessed monsters were finished. The boy went up to the girl and told her that Ananta had done a very good job as always. Ananta grabbed the rabbit-eared girl by the scruff of her neck and lifted her up towards him. She hid her fear behind a smile. The guy asked her to shut up, calling her a bad informant. The girl realized what he was talking about and promised to keep her mouth shut from now on. The young man pointed his finger at the deer-eyed girl and told his acquaintance that her false tip had set him up even more this time. Ananta pointed out to the girl with the rabbit ears that their deal was over and she should pay him. He threw her to the ground. As she climbed up, the girl realized that this guy was still mad at her for leading him on a false trail. The girl with the asked, "What is the name of this girl with antlers?" The interlocutor learned that in this world, strangers are called avatars. The young lady with the antlers replied that her name was Nadia. She didn't know what to expect from these two. She couldn't believe they'd managed to meet another victim of the same wings as Ananta. Nadia asked what she was talking about. Suddenly, a guy intervened in their conversation, and they realized from his look that he didn't want to hear such talk in his presence. The girl with bunny ears pulled out a gold watch on a chain, not understanding why this guy is always in a hurry to get somewhere. Pressing the mechanism, the clock opened and began to magically affect space. Nadia didn't realize what was happening. Suddenly, a huge depression formed right below them, into which they began to fall. The girl started screaming, realizing that they were falling into the unknown. Nadia opened her eyes and was surprised to see that they had landed in a place of integrity unknown to her. The Trinity found themselves in an underground world with a huge tree in the center and many houses around it. The girl with the rabbit ears pointed out to Nadia that a smart rabbit digs 3 holes. She remembered that she forgot to introduce herself. The young lady reported that she was from the continent's largest information network, Rabbit's Feet, being just a cute informant nicknamed Whitefoot. Whiteleg added that with Ananta, they have been working for a long time. The guy looked at her carelessly. Trinity got to cafes, which was the largest trading city in the south. The tree in this was sacred, and it was called the White Lotus Tree. Whitefeet reported that they were sitting at the top of a white lotus tree. Nadia asked her to stop talking. Nadia thanked them for freeing her from the demon's control, saying she didn't want to listen to their monologues. The girl asked them to start by answering her question. She tried to find out why they had brought her to this town. Ananta didn't answer her question, ordering her to shut up and follow him. Nadia was surprised at such rudeness. The guy promised to show the girl why he had brought her here for a while. She followed them in silence. Walking into town, Nadia asked Anant what kind of person that incarnation of the wings was that he was after. The boy replied that the creature was a hideous beast that imagined itself to be the god of this world. Nadia asked to tell her about it in a little more detail. Whitefoot explained that avatars were given human form and powers by the gods, and the incarnation of wings could also grant other people powers. The girl added that these powers are imperfect, and it is unknown whether it is a blessing or a curse. Nadia was surprised to hear about the imperfect power. Ananta interrupted their conversation to inform them that they had come to the right place. Trinity came to a marketplace in which many slaves were being sold at a variety of prices and for a variety of purposes. The boy was at a loss to realize that he had fallen into the hands of a slave trader, and now he would have to work for someone for the rest of his life. White Paw informed Nadia that they had come to the cafe's slave market. One of the merchants was just buying a slave. The girl with the rabbit ears added that lately this place has been overrun with immigrants, travelers, and vagrants caught by slave hunters. Nadia noticed that this market even sold spirit beasts that were furious at this treatment of them. The trader offered to sell the spirit of this tiger to the buyer, and they negotiated a price acceptable to both. Nadia asked the White Paw how this place was connected to the incarnation of wings. The interlocutor opened a door to an unknown room. Suddenly, without giving an answer, Ananta with his foot sent Nadia to a place unknown to her. She didn't immediately realize what had happened. The girl rolled down the stairs when she saw that these two had shoved her against her will into the place the people present there were disturbed. As Nadia walked up, she saw many captives like herself who had been brought to this place against their will. The girl with the deer ears asked who these people were. She didn't understand what was going on here. Ananta replied that all these people are sacrifices for the incarnation of the wings, adding that sacrifices are performed at the top of the sacred tree. A multitude of breathless bodies merrily lingered in the branches of this sacred tree of the city of cafes, but Nadia still didn't understand what was going on. Ananta explained to her that she would be the bait to catch the incarnation of wings. The girl was surprised by this. The guy added that all the other people were also acting as bait, so there was nothing left for her to do but put up with it. Leaving, the guy said that he trusted the rest to the White Paw, which did not mind obediently obeying his orders. As they climbed the steps, Nadia hurried to stop them to find out as much as she could about their plan. The girl with the deer ears asked if they had captured all these prisoners. She couldn't open the door because it was closed. Ananta asked what she would do if she found out that it was true, because in his opinion, it was not such an important aspect of the case. Nadia was furious at this response, ordering him not to behave so lewdly towards the others. The girl realized that these two were using ordinary people to achieve their goal, asking if their conscience tormented them. Ananta continued to leave, saying that it is not possible to take revenge without getting his hands dirty. Nadia was shocked at his treatment of other beings, stating that she had no intention of accepting it. White Paw approached her, indicating that she understood her offense, but there was nothing she could do about it. The girl with the rabbit ears felt sorry for these poor people who would wallow in the atrocities created by the incarnation of wings. White Paw added that the presentation brought tears to her eyes. Nadia didn't believe her, recognizing her arrogance. Nadia stated that they have no right to do whatever they want. To her, White Paw convinced Ananth's words. The girl with the rabbit ears informed Nadia that she had previously been controlled by a demon god and had caused a bloodbath, asking if she was worried about those dozens of ruined lives. White Paw added that even if she didn't want to do something like that, it doesn't mean it didn't happen. The young lady pointed out to Nadia that she should not be angry with her, or Ananta. She touched her hand. Ananth's partner has informed her that their common enemy is an evil incarnation of the wings that her partner intends to deal with. A short while later, the warriors were preparing to enter the arena to fight and give the audience a performance. The guy put on his forearm metal cuffs, preparing for a strong battle against the enemy. White Paw pointed out to his partner that he was talking nonsense when he answered Nadia, because all those victims had nothing to do with him. Ananta asked what happened to Nadia. White Paw said that she had asked her to help them with what they had planned. White Paw added that as planned, they went to the white lotus frames with the wing guards. Offering the sacrifice was the starting point of their resistance to the incarnation of the wings. They had completed all the preparations for this bloodshed. White Paw reported that they had found a helper in the frame, without whom they would not have passed through the barrier. To participate in the arena needed a sacrifice, and they were able to resolve the issue. Ananta could receive a branch of the white lotus tree for winning the arena, and would then be able to meet the incarnation of the wings. Despite all this, the process was quite tedious for the White Paw. She thought they were doing something wrong. White Paw realized that if Ananta had made up his mind right away, it would have been easier to attract the enemy's attention with a massacre. The girl realized that there was a line in life that should never be crossed. She looked at him thoughtfully. It seemed to White Paw that Ananta was trying to draw a line between humans and beasts by deciding to do things this way. The girl with the rabbit ears realized that there were many ways and methods, and everything in this situation was contradictory. Ananta, just from where he stood, could feel his acquaintance, rolling her eyes, resenting his plan. The guy stated that she had recently eaten, and now it would be a nice afternoon workout for him. Entering the arena, the young man ordered the White Paw to sit quietly and watch as he masterfully commandeered a branch of the sacred tree. Ananta intended to show everyone his personal way of hunting the beast. He armed himself with 2 tomahawks. White Paw asked his partner not to draw too much attention with his raucous battle. Ruby shouted his good luck to his master. The girl with the rabbit ears worried that something might go wrong. The guy entering the arena replied that he would think about her suggestion of not putting on a show, but made no promises. After the battle began, one of the commanders ordered his squad to put up a wall of shields to defend against the beast. The men put up their shields and tried to pierce the body of the huge monster that opposed them with their spears. The monster let out a ferocious roar. The squad leader told no one to be afraid, but to keep in line because otherwise they might get hurt. Suddenly, Ananta intervened in their formation and grabbed the shoulder of one of the knights and threw him aside. The warriors didn't understand what this guy was doing in the arena. He responded by ordering them to shut up and see how he could handle this monster alone. The huge monster noticed the guy's approach and intended to get rid of him with his paw. Suddenly, the boy delivered a powerful blow to the paw of the beast that wanted to attack him, but the young man had other plans for it. The warriors were surprised at such a skillful strike by the guy. White Paw was upset because she had asked him not to draw unnecessary attention. The girl with the bunny ears made sure to get a lot of trouble from this guy. He continued to strike at the monster. The commander of the squad watching the battle of the guy did not understand how it could be because he did not believe that alone can overcome such a creature. The audience was shocked that an ordinary man skillfully defeated a mythical beast before their eyes. Ananta made a powerful leap, intending to cut off the monster's head with a single blow while it was immobilized. The powerful tomahawk strike came just in the head of the mythical beast, which could not survive. The audience held their breath at what they saw, because they had never seen something like this before. The guy, after defeating the strongest monster, shouted as a sign of his victory. The audience rejoiced at such a performance. Ananta shifted his gaze to the huge sacred tree that towered over the arena where the battles were taking place. The guy promised that he would very soon defeat the strongest creature that ruled this city and eat it without a trace. Meanwhile, the huge gates opened inside were ready to receive the victims who had been brought to this sacred place. Nadia suspected that what was happening here would be quite different from what Ananthan had planned, and white-knuckled the captives into a huge hall. Shivering residents noticed an arrogant person on whose arm sat a small bird, unaware of the trouble. Guy asked all those present who were brought to him to let go of their fears and not to worry about the future. The young man welcomed everyone to the temple of the goddess Nadia, assumed it was the very embodiment of wings. The temple of the white lotus tree was surrounded by a barrier of mighty power that gave this place its nickname as the sacred tree. The reason why all the wing incarnations settled here in search of offerings was unknown. Those who offered a sacrifice to the temple received the right to participate in the arena of Cepheus, and warriors who proved their strength in battles against beasts were rewarded with a branch of the white lotus tree. Those who were marked by the embodiment of wings were granted special power. They called themselves the Guardians of Wings. Earlier, Whitepaw had informed Nadia that they would be entering the temple under the pretense of sacrifice to pass the defense, asking if she had any other questions. Nady asked why Ananta wanted to defeat the incarnation of the wings, assuming it had something to do with his power. Whitepaw had a hard time briefly explaining it to her, but she informed that his creature dubbed the embodiment of vengeance. The embodiment of vengeance with his nature simply amazed imagination because he had a very difficult fate. The guy instructed the intimidated people to raise their heads and accept the gift of salvation he would arrange for them. Hearing his words, the common people became even more worried about it, and the girl began to pray for salvation. The young man informed them that he was a saint to be worshipped. He was the owner of a white lotus tree, adding that the incarnation of the wings resonated with a sacred drum in the world of darkness. The guy introduced himself as Balzac Ilgini. Behind him, a divine seating appeared. Nadia was skeptical from the rumors she had heard that the people who came along with her would be his offering. The boy listened indifferently to the speech of Balzac Ilgini, who asked them to prepare to enter the world of liberation. The owner of the white lotus tree ordered them to entrust their bodies to the wings of salvation. He arrogantly looked at the victims he had been brought. Suddenly, one of the girls asked the embodiment of wings to show them mercy and spare her younger sister. The girl tearfully begged Balzac Ilgin to spare her sister's life, but he had no intention of doing so in return, from asked them to show loyalty with noble hearts. Suddenly, the girl's head exploded. Her little sister didn't even have time to notice how it happened. The girl was horrified and could not say a word. She felt sorry for her older sister, who wanted mercy for her. The other people did not understand what had happened. Noticing that this girl had died, they were horrified, assuming that the same fate awaited them. Balzac Ilgina stated that in the face of perdition, all are equal, informed the girl that her older sister was free from shame and pity. The owner of the place added that this girl will reach nirvana soon, and they have nothing to worry about. The other victims began to be brought closer to Balzac Ilgin. Nadia dutifully followed them. Suddenly, the entity that had previously captivated Nadia appeared, and everyone was horrified to see this monster. The dark power began to overpower the guards who had brought the prisoners to this place. They could do nothing about it. Nadia stated to Balzac Ilgin that he was not the savior he was arrogantly watching. The girl with deer ears, being shrouded in dark power, stated that the owner of this place is a heartless executioner. Balzac Ilgin suggested that among the victims was an incarnation of Yggdrasil. He marveled at this. Nadia began to radiate an even more powerful dark force out of herself, forgetting where she was. Suddenly, people started screaming that it was Kiernan. They were terrified that this girl was a monster and had been with them all this time. The girl noticed her shadow in the form of a vicious monster that scared all the people. She was immersed in her thoughts. Suddenly, Nady remembered Whitepaw's words that if she didn't want to do something like that, it didn't mean it didn't happen. Nadia's face changed, and she used her Yggdrasil power, and many branches sprouted from the floor. The mighty vines captivated the guards who brought the victims to this place, those who did not understand what happened. Many branches created a wooden dome to protect the victims who were grafted here against their will. Nadia asked the people not to worry. She promised that she would protect them no matter what. Suddenly, the hatred of the owner of this place descended on her. Balzac Ilgini ordered her to stop talking nonsense, calling her a self-righteous fawn, making it clear that they would not escape their fate. The boy was surprised that a nameless incarnation from a distant land dared to resist his will. The girl in the smoke told Balzac Ilgin that she had a name, and he shouldn't have treated living things like that. Then wooden antlers began to form on the girl's head, which indicated that she was indeed of the deer family. Nadia gave him her name, informing him that she was nature incarnate and would not let him get rid of these people. Hearing her words, Balzac Ilgini laughed, saying that she was a very funny and self-confident girl. The girl didn't realize that she felt an invisible wave or the power of telekinesis, but instinctively blocked it without feeling threatened. They used the Sushela spell and a huge hammer appeared. The girl intended to crush Balzac Ilginin with all her might, who was not afraid of such attacks. Using his power, the owner of the place ordered Nadia to obey him and humbly carry out his instructions. Suddenly, Ananta felt a malicious energy that emanated from the white lotus tree. The onlookers also noticed it. The warrior looked at the tree and didn't understand what could have happened there, because something like this had never happened in this place. Nadia felt all the dark energy Balzac Ilginin had directed at her, and she froze with horror. The girl saw that her strongest attack was so easily destroyed by this creature, realizing that he was on a completely different level. The golden cage swung over Nadia, who was standing at the bottom and couldn't see her. Balzac Ilgini asked what she had only this pathetic power. The owner of this place snapped his fingers, and a golden cage fell on Nadia, but the girl managed to bounce back in time. The girl didn't understand what was going on and why he had thrown the cage at her, since she had managed to dodge it. Nadia realized that this cage was not her day, for a huge monster had appeared in front of her, intent on destroying the entire area. The guy hurriedly informs her that this monster is too dangerous and she needs to get out of here mono. The sudden, unbearable pain sent Nadia into a state of shock. Looking at her body, she saw the spears that pierced her body. Balzac Ilgini advised the girl to be careful, realizing that she would not get out of this place alive. A huge monster appeared behind the sacred tree owner's back, intending to fight the unruly victims. The guy ordered them to serve as loyal followers of Yo. In the meantime, Anant had succeeded in overpowering the next spirit beast, which had collapsed to the ground without much strength, but was still breathing. The boy, turning to the beast, pointed out that he may hate it, but he should not turn away in the face of his doom. The warrior informed Duke Berengard that all the spectators were extremely agitated by the situation that had arisen and could not give it a logical reasoning. The men realized that this guy had won, but according to their plan, the winner was supposed to be Duke Berengard. The honored citizens of cafes were announced the winner of this arena, which was Anantu, who defeated many monsters. The aide asked Duke Berengard what they should do in the situation. The man calmly watched as the situation further unfolded. The guardians of the wings intended to bestow the great warrior with a white lotus branch. Duke declared that everyone was just waiting for it. Duke Berengard stated that everything is going according to plan so far, and no matter what happens, the branch of the white lotus flower will still be in their hands. The guardians handed the guy a box containing a branch of a white lotus flower, and he realized that his plan had worked. Ananta took this branch, which now belonged to him. The spectators made sure that this was the end of the gladiatorial show. The fellow, after receiving this prize, intended to go to the sacred tree to fight Balzac Ilgini. Meanwhile, the children watched with worry at the battle of Nadi, who was trying to protect them with her powers. The girl fell to her knees from the wounds she received from the monster summoned by the owner of this place. The huge monster intended to teach a lesson to the unwanted girl who resisted her fate to become a victim of this tree. Balzac Ilgini asked if she was willing to continue to protect the victims at all costs, as she had said earlier, assuring them that such a thing was pointless because they were wasting their time. The people were in a daze. Having verified the truth of the words of the owner of this place, they did not believe that the girl would be able to match such an opponent. Guy suggested that she look at the faces of the people and rather put them out of their fear and shower them with Yeo's blessing. The girl was surprised that he called himself a savior, ordering him not to make her repeat herself twice. Nadia reiterated that he was no savior, but a bloodthirsty executioner eager to get innocent souls under his command. The girl pointed out to Balzac Ilgin that he was the vile incarnation of a demon, bringing only misery and horror. The owner of the sacred tree calmly looked at the girl, who began to emit dark energy from herself. Balzac Ilgini stated that he would argue about true salvation being granted through despair. Suddenly, the branches of the sacred tree began to attack the victims who were under Nadia's protection. The girl was horrified because she had failed to protect these people as she had promised, but she didn't understand how the enemy had bypassed her defense. The owner of this place collected all the souls of the victims who brought him what he saw, made the girl doubt her abilities, and started begging him to stop doing it. Suddenly, these same vines pierced the body of the monster that was in this place. Nadia assumed that all the victims' powers would go to this monster. Balzac Ilgin declared that there was an illumination by the blessing of the incarnation of the wings. He was pleased with the sacrifices received. The guy stated to the girl that these were lost souls, and she would be given great honor. He laughed abnormally. Nadia noticed, as spiritual powers began to flow over the branches that pierced the bodies of the victims, she was convinced of her assumptions. The huge monster began to saturate with the strength of the people who had died in this place. People did not understand what was happening on the white lotus branches. The souls of the people followed the trunk straight to the monster and could not resist it in any way, their bodies swaying in the wind. Balzac Ilgini said that this is an infernal field where existence and non-existence coexist, in contrast to the eternal skill where each person is inevitably doomed to perdition. Nadia realized that she had failed to save these people. Her protective wooden ball began to disappear. She didn't know what to do in such a situation. The owner of this place claimed that only he could give meaning to their miserable existence. The minions who served Balzac Ilgin were also victimized and nourished. The White Lotus Tree, the owner of this place, added that they would create an eternal warrior. The guy said that in the circle of life, they will all be reborn with the light that the White Lotus Tree will protect. The huge beast continued to saturate itself with the power of the victims who had given their souls to the owner of this place, indicated that this was the true blessing of the wings. The girl was shocked at what he was doing, asking how many human lives he had already consumed in that time. Nadia didn't get an answer to her question, but was simply taken captive by the powerful vine that enveloped her body. Balzac Ilgin replied to her that he had made so many sacrifices that he lost count of how many there were. The guy stated that despite all this, Nadia was a brave girl for being so desperate to stand up to him, asking what she would like to say in the end. The girl sent him away, saying that she had no intention of obeying him even if she was captured. The owner of the sacred White Lotus Tree said that she, like everyone else, had met a miserable end, and he intended to end it. Balzac Ilgin's plans were intended to be thwarted by Ananta, who opened the door to this sanctuary, but his presence was not noticed by the owner. Suddenly, an unknown object caused Balzac to look away from Nadia and stare at the uninvited guest who had come to the place. Balzac Ilgini noticed that this object was the head of his henchman, forcing him to deviate from his plans. Ananta jumped into the room, holding in his hand the branch he had received in the arena and intended to stab Balzac with it. The owner of this place was late in noticing the enemy who stuck a branch right in his eye. Anant's eyes were tortured with hatred for this creature. Then the guy, by inertia, jumped over the opponent, who for a moment was dazed from the injury he received. Nadia was happy to see that Ananta had come as promised to defeat Balzac Ilgini. She was still captive. The guy asked the girl how she managed to survive, assuring her that he didn't know she was so lucky. Balzac Ilgini pointed out that the White Lotus branch meant that this guy was the winner of the arena coming to this place. The owner of this place was sure that a creature like Ananta couldn't set foot in this place. He didn't understand how he managed to get here. Ananta was surprised to hear such arrogant words at his expense, calling him a shallow creature. The guy asked Nadia where the incarnation of wings had gone and why she was rubbing it in here with that screamer. The girl tried to answer him, but their conversation was interrupted by the owner of this place, saying that such a thing was not enough to enter Yo's territory without permission. Balzac Ilgini didn't understand how this guy dared to insult the great Yo incarnate wings. The guy became furious and said he would rip his ugly tongue out of his filthy mouth and started to turn into a monster. Ananta ordered his opponent to be silent, stating that he didn't believe this guy was the embodiment of wings. Meanwhile, the guards were trying to defend themselves against criminals who wanted to sneak into this holy place. One of the men managed to overpower the enemy who stood in his way. Their team intended to follow Anant. The squad leader ordered his warriors to destroy all the guards who were in the area. The warriors began attacking and crowding the guards of this holy place. They could not cope with the onslaught of the opponents. Duke Bernguard was about to strike immediately after the barrier was removed to let the winner through, but the one who was supposed to carry the White Lotus branch vanished. Entering one of the rooms of the place, the Duke was surprised at what he saw and assumed it might be a trap. Bernguard noticed the many breathless bodies of the keepers that lay on the steps of the place. He did not believe that that guy alone had handled them, thinking that he had come for the incarnation of the wings. Suddenly, there was an awkward pause between the trio. The girl was captive and unable to move. The two guys intended to humiliate each other. The girl was convinced that Balzac Ilgini was the embodiment of wings, and she couldn't believe it wasn't true. Nadia realized that what was happening here was a simple hoax. The owner of this place was burning with rage and hatred for these creatures. The guy asked why she needed eyes if she couldn't tell the difference between the real incarnation of wings. Ananthan assumed she hadn't wondered why her opponent had such a high-profile name as the epitome of great wings. The young man explained to Nadia that the symbol of the incarnation of the great wings was 3 pairs of white wings. Balzac Ilgini stood silently, listening to the reasoning of these creatures, who realized that he was not a true leader. The guy pointed out to Balzac that he couldn't even create wings, and if he wanted to imitate him, he'd have to try harder. Ananthan called Balzac useless garbage with a too long tongue that doesn't really weigh anything. Upon hearing the opponent's assertion, the owner of the place stated that the guy was talking nonsense, and there wasn't an ounce of sense in his words. Balzac ordered his henchmen to send this insolent man to the next world, but the guy realized that he was not afraid of such threats. Using his strength, he used his sharp claws to cut down the wooden branches that had been holding Nadia up all this time. The guy asked her why she froze, letting her know that he had freed her so she could run away from here. The girl noticed the two children who had not been attacked by Balzac Ilgini and had not found themselves on branches that took away spiritual powers. Ananthan ordered the acquaintance to get out of here quickly. The girl rushed to the surviving children who were unconscious. The guardians who gave their souls to Balzac Ilgini were completely subordinate to him and resembled zombies who obeyed orders without question. Meanwhile, a huge bird-like monster prepared a lot of spikes that it intended to attack the guy with. A flurry of spikes forced everyone to the ground. Nadia managed to run to the children in time to cover them from the attack. Ananta changed his appearance to a lizard-like monster and dodged the spikes that the enemy fired at him. He hovered on one of the pillars of the place. Moving along the columns, the guy tried to attack the monster bird that didn't expect this turn of events. The beast only had time to notice the approach of the enraged lizard before the lightning-fast attack of its claws. The huge bird resisted her opponent's blow and took counter-attacking measures, but Ananta managed to deftly dodge her attack. Immediately, the monster from the lizardman was hit by a powerful blow straight to the head that fractured its skull. The body of the huge opponent collapsed to the floor. Ananta noticed a strange action that was developing behind his back. Balzac Ilgini's powerful attack caught up with the lizard-like creature the opponent recognized as the mighty power of Ananth, who fell on his back. Having completely changed his appearance, the owner of this place added that he had made sure that Ananta was strong enough to see the true power of the spirits. Using his mighty powers, a huge magical seal appeared behind his back. He ordered the lizard to bow before him. Nadia noticed that they were doing badly, and in this case, they would not be able to escape, deciding to take some action that would help the familiar. It became clear to her that this was the technique Balzac used to break up her attack. Suddenly, the lizard grabbed his opponent's limbs and began to forcefully bring his head to his mouth. He did not expect this. Balzac, in time, managed to counter his intentions and avoid such a demise by calling him a fool to think he could defeat him like that. The lizard tried to strike back, but his opponent managed to bounce away from him in time to avoid the attack. Ananta, in the guise of a lizard-like monster, rushed to catch up with the opponent, who wanted to increase the distance to strike. Continuing to strike at her opponent, who deftly dodged it, the girl watched their battle with interest. Suddenly, the lizard opened up for a powerful strike, and Balzac Ilgini, without wasting a chance, struck a powerful blow at it, severing a limb. The owner of this place, having made a successful attack, made sure of his superiority over his opponent, who began to fall down. Suddenly, the lizard let out a powerful roar that spread all around this place. Nadia watched them anxiously. After a growl, the lizard's arm began to recover, thus showing that he was not a simple opponent, as it may have seemed. Seeing Balzac Ilgini's recovery, he couldn't believe that his opponent had recovered so quickly and was ready to continue their battle. Ananta immediately attacked the owner of this place, who hesitated and froze in one place. Balzac managed to block his opponent by summoning branches from the ground of the divine tree he thought would protect him. The assumption proved to be wrong, and the lizard's powerful attack broke through the wooden defenses and chopped Balzac Ilgini in half. Nadia, seeing this, thought that the attack had worked, and Ananta had managed to defeat this creature that had ruined many lives of innocent beings. Balzac continued to resist, calling them pathetic creatures who dared to do such a thing to a deity. Behind the lizard stood a huge, headless monster that intended to protect its master. Suddenly, a chopped part of Balzac replaced the severed head of the huge creature he had ordered Ananth to have no reverence for spirits. Balzac declared to his opponent that he would show him the difference in strength and how great the gulf between them was. Meanwhile, in the sky above them, the barrier began to collapse, cracking into many small particles. A powerful blow broke through this barrier. The unknown intended to penetrate this place. No one sensed his presence. Afterward, a portal formed near the pierced dome, from which an unknown creature appeared. The unknown man noticed the battle that was taking place on the sacred tree of this small town. Meanwhile, Balzac Ilgini ordered those present to marvel at those magnificent wings. The owner of this place tried to continue, but the powerful attack that descended upon him silenced him. Ananthan almost managed to separate his opponent from the body of the huge monster, but the two continued their merging into a pile again. Balzac Ilgini ordered the enemy to attack him again, but this time he used the powers that belonged to a huge monster. Suddenly, branches came out of the ground and grabbed the lizard, preventing it from moving from its place. The huge monster prepared to attack the enemy with a multitude of spikes emerging from its body. Balzac Ilgini intended to chop this lizard into small pieces. He grinned maliciously at him. After these words, a multitude of spikes headed towards the lizard-like creature that couldn't move. The girls saw that a powerful attack was bearing down on Anant, but from the dust in the air, nothing could be seen. The lizard broke free from the shackles of the tree with lightning speed and moved behind Balzac, who hadn't noticed his disappearance. Turning around, the owner of this place noticed that his opponent had circled him from the back and intended to attack him with his fist. Balzac Ilgini sustained heavy damage to his body as he failed to react in time to his opponent's lunge. Ananta continued to strike at the body of the monster that was recovering from the first blow he received. The owner of this place became enraged at such an annoying opponent who kept crowding him. Suddenly, Balzac noticed that the enemy's appearance had changed again. He didn't realize what contributed to it. Nadia also noticed that Ananta had changed. She was curious to know more about this guy. Using his tail that appeared, he quickly began to move around the area where the battle was taking place. Balzac made sure that the lizard began to move quickly, that its speed was beyond everyone's comprehension, assuming that its abilities were regeneration and transformation. The owner of this place has decided to use his powers that he can't escape from, assuming that the enemy can crush him faster than he can react. Suddenly, there was an earthquake in the place. Ananta did not realize what it could be, but prepared for anything. Nadia, from such powerful subterranean blows, fell off the stake, continuing to watch the battle of these two. Noticing the multiple attacks from beneath the ground, the lizard jumped up from its seat, and the wooden roots followed. The roots of the tree, as instructed by Balzac, continued to follow the lizard, who deftly dodged them. Ananta realized that no matter how much he attacked the opponent, he would recover because he had a white lotus branch. The lizard realized that the longer the battle lasted, the less advantageous position he would be in. Suddenly, Ananta noticed that there were many breathless bodies falling on the tree from the sky, deciding that he could use this to benefit himself. He made a powerful jump and headed for the ceiling, intending to carry out his plan to overpower the enemy. Balzac Ilgini, along with Nadia, didn't understand what the lizard-like creature was up to, but continued to watch it. Ananta gave a powerful blow to the ceiling of this sacred place. The structure in that place began to crack. The ceiling directly above Balzac was shattered and formed a huge hole in Anant, along with the debris began to fall. Suddenly, the enemy managed to grab the lizard with wooden roots, from which it was very difficult for it to get out. Balzac asked what he was going to die under the debris of the ceiling. The lizard did not answer him anything, but tried to get out of captivity. The owner of this place assumed that the enemy wanted to come up with some stupid trick. Suddenly, Ananta, in the form of a lizard, asked him how many lives he had taken from creatures who were innocent of anything. Such talk pissed off Balzac Ilgini, and he replied that he had consumed so much that he had lost count. Suddenly, the lizard began to form wings. Nadia, noticing this, was surprised at his abilities. Balzac noticed an aura that began to emanate from his opponent, who was beginning to have wings. Ananta declared that in the name of the innocent lives devoured by Balzac, he would be overthrown by the spirits of the deceased. Looking up, the creature noticed that through the dura in the ceiling, many bodies he had sacrificed began to fall down on him. The bodies of the unsettled continued to fall from the sky directly onto Balzac Ilgini, who had not expected this turn of events. The owner of this place could not understand why such a thing could happen in this sacred place. A multitude of bodies crowded the huge creature that could not cope with them, all of them, like ants, swooped down and attacked him. Nadia didn't realize what this was happening to her eyes, for she had never seen anything like this before. The bodies of the dead began to tear apart Balzac Ilgini, who could do nothing about them. The monster's huge body plunged into the countless bodies that continued to pile up on top of it. Suddenly breaking out of this captivity, Balzac declared that he needed a victim. He stared at the girl next to the lying children. The huge creature approached Nadia, but space began to crack above him. Without him noticing it, he continued to carry out his plan. Suddenly, a bright ray struck Balzac Ilgini, who intended to make another sacrifice to save himself. The bright flash from the impact blinded the entire surroundings. The girl with deer ears tried to shield herself from the bright light against the strong wind currents. The girl noticed that an unknown creature had appeared in the area and disposed of Balzac Ilgini in one blow. Suddenly, the unknown leaned in front of her. Nadia didn't realize what she should expect from this creature. The godlike man asked if his superior had enjoyed the journey he had been on. The girl didn't understand what was happening and who he was addressing. She noticed the boy she was protecting had risen. The boy began to modify, and this gentleman pointed out to his servant that he had gone a little overboard with his greeting. Takuntar, unknown. Finished his visage, Berhan reported that he had come to escort the incarnation of the wings. Earlier, the White Foot reported on the situation that a rift of space had appeared in the sky above the White Lotus tree. The girl added that if Mr. Ananta is in the temple, then most likely he has entered into a confrontation with the enemy. Ruby resented this. A servant of the wing incarnation named Barahan appeared and intended to escort the Lord. White Paw stated that this fact meant that the incarnation itself was in this city, and they had done the right thing. The incarnation of wings looked at the girl with a cold gaze. He showed them his true appearance. The girl's heart froze from such a magical look she didn't realize what had happened to her. Grasping her breasts, Nadia fell to her knees, and there was no way she could resist this unknown force. The girl looked at the creature that knelt before this man who was called the incarnation of wings, and did not understand who it was. Balzac Ilgini was struggling to get out of the rubble when he noticed the man approaching him. Balzac asked him what he was doing here, and he looked at him silently with a cold stare. Wings Incarnate asked Balzac what he had managed to forget him in the time they hadn't seen each other. The lad replied that he had not forgotten his past cruel master who had torn off the wings of his loyal servant. Incarnate Wings took them away from him because he deserved punishment for allowing false glory to twist his mind. Barahan grabbed Balzac by the neck and brought him against his master, who could not resist. The man informed his servant that the wings were a divine gift sent down to those who were originally created to soar high in the clear sky. Balzac declared that it was nonsense to whom he was told to revere him more than anyone else. He was angry with his master. The guy added that he had sacrificed tens of thousands of lives to create this perfect body he wished at all costs to regain his wings. Wings Incarnate called Balzac a fool and felt sorry for the guy who didn't understand what he was saying. The man touched the lad's body and it seethed with a bright light from within, silencing him for all eternity. Ananta hid in the mountain of breathless bodies and discreetly watched the happenings in the place, realizing that this man was indeed the embodiment of wings. Earlier, the man had told the boy that he had a dream he wanted to find the edge of the earth, where their world connects with the world of the gods. The man made it clear to the young man that he would not stop until he achieved this dream. The boy looked at him thoughtfully. Memories from the past surfaced in Anant's mind of how he had dated this man back in his teens. The guy was surprised to hear that he wouldn't back down from his goal, even if the whole world turned against him. Ananta remembered how his sister wished him a good journey when he went with the man. The guy's sister died. As his village plunged into the fire, none of them could escape. Barahan reported that the White Lotus tree had a strange name, and nothing more suggesting that his master's dream had once again failed to come true. The man agreed with his words, pointing out that it was merely a symbiosis of the power of the branches and the divine tree, which was not even worthy compared to the world tree. Looking at Nadia, the man pointed out to his servant that he had forgotten about a very curious connection he had noticed. The incarnation of wings looked at the girl, who sat on his lap, and couldn't move because of his power. Ananta got out of the mountain of bodies in which he was hiding, and intended to attack the creature that was strutting beside him. The lizard's hands burst into flames, plunging into rage as the feeling of vengeance never left his mind for a moment. Incarnate Wings sensed the presence of this creature, but continued to stand still without giving any sign. Barahan rushed in just in time and closed his lord from Anant's attack, preparing to fight him. Anant declared that he had finally succeeded in finding a true incarnation of the wings. He roared at the whole neighborhood. The dragon-like creature rushed in fury to attack the wing incarnation. Its appearance changed again. Barahan prepared to fight back against this creature that dared to oppose his master's will. A powerful blow followed right into the head of the lizard, who didn't even try to dodge it. A powerful attack stopped the opponent. The dragon-like creature's head flew off its shoulders, but immediately began to recover instantly. Barahan ordered the name of an opponent who had no intention of giving up his intentions so easily. The lizard's damaged head had almost recovered, but he was in no hurry to call himself in front of these entities. Preparing to strike and not waiting for a response, Barahan allowed that talking would not help in this situation. Ananta tried to attack his opponent, who grabbed his fist, thus preventing him from striking. Then Duke Bernguard came to them, who didn't understand what was going on here, and which of them was the true embodiment of the wings. The lizard declared that he would tear to pieces anyone who got in his way. He proceeded to attack Barahan, who was as strong as he was. A powerful leg kick lands for a Nanth, making him fly backwards from his opponent a decent distance. After the lizard began to change again and began to have wings, he roared, expressing his desire for revenge. Such a growl made those around him nervous, not knowing what to expect from this creature next. Wings Incarnate noticed that this brazen lizard had turned into a very real dragon intent on dealing with him. The man said that he knew this face was familiar to him because he knew it was the black dragon Azdagaka. and he stood calmly against it, watching the dragon rage at the sight of him. Ananta found himself in a place unknown to him. Noticing a strange movement, he headed deeper into the cave. The guide didn't understand what this place was or how he got here, but he knew it was bad, and he had to get out of here as soon as possible. The young man looked up, not realizing where he was going. Then from that place, a sudden voice ordered him to remember. The dragon told the young man to remember who he had despised, who had taken revenge on him, and who had taken everything from him, and the man had a hunch who was in front of him. Ananta pointed out that he was Azdagaka. He looked him straight in the face with fierce eyes, showing that he was not scared at all. The dragon Azdagaka called him a cursed eternal who began to resist his instructions. Approaching the guy, the dragon pointed out that this man was wallowing in regret, being consumed by rage. The dragon continued to push his opponents, destroying the sacred place they were in. Barahan managed to deftly dodge the dragon's attack without losing his composure. He continued to attack it. Looking at the dragon, Barahan realized that this opponent had lost his mind and had fallen into a berserk state. Ananta, losing his composure, gave his body to Azdagakan, who took the form of a dragon and fought the enemy. Barahan said that it was a pitiful spectacle, for in his opinion, an opponent who had lost his temper was not worthy to fight him. The dragon spewed flames out of itself, directing them at Barahan, who intended to finish him off. Preparing to make contact with the fire, Barahan used his powerful fists to infuse his strength into them. The dragon continued to spew flames that met the opposing force coming from Barahan. There was a powerful stream of fire that spread around the area. The man covered himself from the fire with his wings. The incarnation of wings indicated to the man that he could become a handful of ash in the blink of an eye, but he didn't move. The creature with wings pointed out to Duke Berngard that even though they were enemies, he still respected him. Duke Berngard realized that there was no time to wait for his comrades. He tried to attack the incarnation of wings, determined to fight to his last breath. The brave warrior approaching the enemy made a powerful swing of his axe, intending to overpower him. Suddenly, Berngard's attack was stopped by a powerful wing incarnation strike that pierced his body in two. The enemy's weapon fell out of his hands. The incarnation of wings informed the Duke that this was the end of their battle. Duke Berngard tried to stay on his feet with his last strength, intending to continue the battle, but he had no strength to do so. An additional powerful beam attack pierced the body of the warrior, who bravely wanted to fight until his last breath. Nadia, watching what was happening, didn't know what else to expect from this place. She was trembling with fear. The incarnation of wings turned to the girl and said that despite her fears, she was not the same as she was before. The girl realized that she had seen this creature before in the forest, when she was being chased by a forest monster. Nadia didn't know what to say to him, and just stared at him silently, not knowing what to expect. The man pointed out that the vibration of the branches proves that she, too, is sucking chosen by the world tree. The girl didn't know what he was talking about, asked what his words about the branches of the sacred tree meant. The incarnation of wings explained that the branches are miracles, surpassing the limits of the human body and granting great power. The man's desire to reach the edge of the earth, he approached the body of the monster that had recently still rampaged in this place. The creature took the form of a small boy. The man indicated that it was his brother, created by thousands of human lives and once imprisoned in a cage. Nadia opened her mouth in surprise, for she could not believe what she had seen and heard in the legends. The man asked the boy to tell him his name, and he called himself Ziz, pleased with this rebirth. Meanwhile, Barahan continued to bravely fight the dragon. He tried to deliver a powerful blow to the monster that intended to capture him. Then there was another bright flash between them, and nothing could be seen. The huge dragon blocked his opponent's blow and knocked him back, forcing him to think of other measures. Suddenly, Ananta, who had lost possession of his body in the form of a dragon, flapped his wings and headed upwards, developing the ceiling. The dragon towered over this sacred place and intended to burn it to the ground, along with those who were there. Ziz noticed this and intended to do something about it, but the incarnation of wings reassured the boy that he had nothing to worry about. The huge dragon continued to accumulate firepower to deliver a crushing blow to the area. Jade, heavenly flames rained down on the wings incarnation, who didn't understand how this opponent dared to look down on them. Using a counter-attacking technique, the man told Anant that there was no place for him in the heavens, and used a light attack of the heavens. The enemy's attack dispersed the fire that spewed out the dragon. The light of the heavens caught up with the dragon, who had not expected such an outcome. Noticing the powerful light beam, Ruby began to worry about his master. The white leg informed him that it was over. Shortly after the battle, a white stalk at the top of the white lotus tree confirmed the destruction of the tree. The forces of the wing incarnation destroyed the sacred white lotus tree, which began to burn with bright flames. Trump, the embodiment of revenge, was defeated. Ananta didn't know he was being used, and so couldn't do anything about it. Several years before these events, Ruby was out in the desert trying to escape from a pack of coyotes that were chasing him. One of the coyotes caught up with the lizard and intended to eat it. The lizard prepared to accept its fate in this life. Suddenly, a flying tomahawk pierced the head of the beast that had been chasing Ruby. The coyote immediately on the spot went to the other world. Young Ananta ordered the coyotes away from the lizard. He intended to finish this beast off. He succeeded in doing so. The other coyotes, seeing this, decided not to get into a fight with this young man, deciding to run away from him before it was too late. The boy was pleased that he was able to overpower the beast so cleverly and get rid of its minions using his weapon. The lizard was shocked to be rescued and decided that he would serve this man for the rest of his life. After the guy hid from the scorching sun behind a huge rock, the lizard followed him. Ananta asked Ruby why he kept following him around. The lizard couldn't speak, so he didn't say anything. The young man did not understand what use could be made of this lizard, for it did not even have meat, only bones. Trying to chase the lizard away, the guy didn't understand why it would just roll away from him. Ruby deftly dodged his blows. Suddenly, the lizard spewed fire from its mouth. The guy did not expect such a turn of events, but managed to dodge the fire in time. The guy was surprised that this lizard could use fire breath and tried to assume that it was a magical animal. Suddenly, the guy noticed that the huge rock behind which he was hiding from the sun was not a rock at all. In front of them stood a huge rhinoceros that reacted to Ruby's fire. The young man realized that he could not fight such a beast alone. Ananta started running away from the rhinoceros that started chasing him. A lizard got on the guy's head. The rhinoceros chased the guy right to the cliff. The guy realized he had no other choice, so he jumped off the cliff. Landing in the gorge, the guy realized that he had managed to avoid a run-in with a huge rhino. The young man noticed that next to him sat a stranger in a hood, which seemed strange to him because at such a time it was difficult to meet anyone. Looking up, the guy noticed that the rhino hadn't given up his intentions to avenge their burn. Suddenly, the young man withdrew from Ruby, who didn't understand what this man was thinking of doing with the huge beast. Taking out a tomahawk, the guy intended to fight the rhinoceros, ordering it to attack, intending to show it the power of the air to the great black dragon. Hearing the man's words, Anantha was surprised to hear him, for he did not understand what he wanted from him. Removing his hood, the man stared at the beast that stalked the young boy. The beast, catching the man's gaze, felt the power he possessed. The man continued to stare at him. Suddenly, the rhino turned around and started to walk away, deciding not to mess with this strong man. The man asked the boy if he was okay. He surprisingly looked at him, positively nodding. Anant's life that day after meeting this man changed forever. He had no idea where the meeting would lead. Then the guy brought the man to his settlement, which was on the bank of the river. The tribe noticed that Anantha had returned. One of the men marveled that this guy was still roaming around. One of the men asked the guy who it was next to him, and he said it was okay and that person wouldn't hurt them. The sister saw the return of her brother and asked where he had been missing for so long. The girl assumed that her brother had gone to the spirit world alone again, pointing out that something terrible could happen and he wouldn't come back alive. His sister asked him where he had brought this incomprehensible animal on his head. From his brother replied that the lizard had just followed him, and that was it. The girl asked who was this stranger who had come to their settlement and introduced his sister Ashita to the master. Suddenly, their conversation was interrupted by a heavy cough from the girl, who turned out to be coughing up blood. Her brother asked if she was all right and asked her to come inside to give her medicine for her illness. The stranger was brought to the head of the settlement in one of the tents, and they began to discuss the business he had come to them for. The head of the settlement offered the guest some food and invited him to sit down, as he would be comfortable, and thanked him for the food. The old man said that they don't get foreigners very often, realizing that it would be disrespectful of them not to treat someone who helped their tribe member. The head of the tribe indicated to the traveler that he could rest at their place as long as it took for him to continue on his way. The man introduced himself as Master Ryu, thanking the elder for his hospitality. The elder told Master Ryu that Anantha would show him around the area, and he was surprised that he had been asked to do so. The man ordered the lad not to ask the elders and to fulfill what they asked him. The young man agreed. The elder tried to ask Master Ryu what had brought him here to such a wild place, for the land in this place was broken and unfit for travel. Master Ryu explained to them that he is a researcher and studies the customs of location and embodiment from different regions. The elder asked what incarnations he was talking about. He pulled out a papyrus and asked him to look at the map. The wanderer told the elder that from the empire in the east to the glaciers in the far north, through the deep forests of the west, he had traveled for many years gathering legends and traditions. Master Ryu was fascinated by the tale of a deity that was passed down in this desert by word of mouth. The tribal elder asked what deity he was talking about, and the other people were also surprised to hear about it. The traveler replied that he was talking about Dagak, who received the power of the gods, being one of the 6 incarnations. Elder pointed out that called the greatest and strongest among the 6, he was treated with reverence and fear. This demonic incarnation was called the Black Dragon Dagaka. Master Ryu prepared a potion that could help Ashita get rid of her cough, assuring her that it was the Black Dragon's fault. The traveler explained that it was a healing herbal decoction from Celestia's empire that boosted immunity and restored vitality. The girl thanked Master Ryu for the potion, assuring her that she felt much better today. The man said he had to leave and asked her not to work too hard and to rest more. The guy asked where he was going today. Master Ryu replied that he intended to head downstream and would explore the surroundings there. Further, Ananta offered him some fishing. My brother told my sister that he would go with the master and do a little fishing, and told her not to worry because he would be back soon. Ashita wished her brother a happy journey sweetly. While smiling, she didn't mind such a thing. Her brother was glad of this admonition, thanking her and promising her that he would be back soon and she need not worry. As he left, the boy noticed some unfriendly looks from the other members of their tribe and was a little upset about it. After a few successfully caught fish, the guys took a break and decided to roast the catch. The guy asked the master that he had been living in their village for a week. The boy asked how his research was progressing. Master Ryu replied that little progress had been made, although he had managed to learn a few stories from the heirs of the Black Dragon. The man told the boy that in the past, their ancestors suffered from the invasion of neighboring tribes, but thanks to the help of the Black Dragon, they managed to defeat the invaders. Ananta learned that his tribe were the heirs of warriors who from ancient times had honored the Black Dragon, who was the savior of the tribe. Master Ryu explained to the boy that the people of his village avoided talking about the Black Dragon as if they were hiding something. The guy assumed the foreman just thought so and they wouldn't hide anything. The man asked the young man that he still goes hunting in the wasteland secretly from his sister. The boy did not expect to hear this question. The traveler stated that he tried not to show any sign of it, but noticed that the boy had a lot of small wounds lately, assuring that his sister would notice them soon too. The boy asked Master Ryu not to tell Ashita about his wounds, because he didn't want to worry her about nothing. Ananta explained that winter was coming soon, and they needed to stockpile as much game as possible, of which there was plenty in the heath. This guy and his sister didn't have parents. They both passed away from illness when he was just a little kid. Ashita had kept her brother safe from a young age, and for her, Ananta was still the child she watched over. The guy added that his sister is always very busy with daily chores and taking care of his already grown-up younger brother, and that's why he hunts a lot and saves his prey for last. Master Ryu assumed that it was hard for the young lad to hunt alone in such an area and felt sorry for the lad. Ananta assured the wanderer that it was not difficult for him to hunt, for he was doing it for his sister. The guy suggested we stop talking about heavy topics by asking why Master Ryu had started researching all these incarnations. The man replied that he wanted to find divine revelations. The guy first heard of such a thing, intending to ask a little more. Master Ryu explained that these were sources containing the sacred powers of the 6 incarnations. Their power surpassed all the laws of the world and lay beyond human comprehension. The 6 incarnations were endowed with the capabilities of gods. The man continued to fry fish and tell the guy about it. The man added that if anyone could collect 6 of these incarnations, that person could become a being capable of seeing far beyond this world. The guy assumed he was talking about ancient scales. He didn't expect to get that information out of him. Master Ryu asked what ancient scale he was talking about. The guy realized he'd blabbed about something unnecessary. The man suspected that this guy knew something about the relic. The guy tried to get away with it, realizing that he would not be able to get rid of the questions the young man asked Master Ryu to keep it a secret. Ashita had told him this story as a child that was known only to their tribe. It was said that in his rage after destroying the offenders, the Black Dragon did not stop and continued to destroy until he had turned all the western wastelands to ashes. In an effort to limit himself, the Black Dragon passed the scales to one of the tribe's ancestors, and once he lost the source of his power, he fell into a deep sleep. Anant's ancestors erected a temple called the Dragon Gorge, where they placed the dragon and put the best warriors of the tribe to guard it. The best of the tribe's warriors guarded the Black Dragon's scales from evil men who would want to possess it. The man tried to interrupt him, but the guy stopped him, asked Master Ryu for forgiveness, but he couldn't tell him any further. The boy pointed out to the man that the tribal elder had allowed him to stay with them for as long as he wanted, and if he decided to go anywhere else, he would gladly take him. Master Ryu told the boy that there was a place he could take him to. The boy was surprised, but agreed. After a long walk, the boy told Ruby to keep his head up and put the lizard on his shoulder. Ananta noticed that the master was standing by the cliff and silently watching the sunset. He was a little surprised. Suddenly, the master told the boy that he had a dream he was ready to listen to. Beyond the borders of this world, he wanted to find the edge of the earth, connecting their world with the world of the gods. Master Ryu stated that until he fulfills his dream, he will stop at nothing in his path. Ananta heard that this man would not give up his dream even if the whole world turned against him. The young man asked what he was talking about and was surprised that he didn't understand yet, because his older sister's illness was actually caused by the Black Dragon's curse. The boy was surprised at this assumption. Master Ryu asked if he knew much about the Black Dragon, because Aztagaka was a servant of the side of demons, ruling over demise and curses. The man assured the lad that an incarnation could not serve such a god just to entrust a divine revelation to mere humans without reason. Master Ryu tried to convince the young man that the dragon had simply used them all and passed on to them the curse of demonic revelation that he himself had carried before. The traveler added that it was for this reason that Anant's parents had died, and that his sister was suffering from a long, incurable illness, and remembering what had happened, he wondered how easily he had convinced him of this. The man assured the lad that it was because of the Black Dragon's curses, and he believed him on that. The young man asked him if it was true, and he took out the sacred flower that had been with him all this time. The man said that this flower should be donated to the sacred treasure that protects his tribe. It was explained to the boy that the Black Dragon's curse would disappear after that, as well as his sister's illness, and he believed it. Hearing those words, the boy assumed that Master Ryu wanted him to break the foundations of his village. The master replied that he didn't make him do it, but only offered to try to put the guy to rest. The man added that even if the outcome turns out to be agonizing, the responsibility of this choice will lie with Ananta. Ashita woke up in the night and noticed that her brother had not returned as promised. She became anxious about it. The girl did not understand where Ananta could have gone at such a late hour, but she continued to be troubled by a cough. The sister was worried about her brother and hoped he wouldn't catch a cold on such a cold night. Meanwhile, the strongest warriors of the tribe were guarding the temple where the Black Dragon scales were kept. Suddenly, one of their guards noticed a man who appeared in the gorge. He asked who he was and why he had come here. Master Ryu was ordered to stand still, informing him that this place was forbidden to enter without permission. He looked on silently. Without waiting for an answer, the guard started attacking the man who was not allowed to enter the place. Suddenly, the man grabbed the tip of his spear and with a powerful blow disarmed the guard who had attacked him. The second warrior, noticing the strength of the enemy, was frightened, but also began to attack this stranger who was trying to penetrate the temple. Having dealt with all the warriors, Master Ryu informed Anant that he could now go out without anyone noticing him. The boy stepped out from behind the stone at the master's command, carrying a divine flower that lit his way. After seeing the defeated warriors, the guy was convinced that Master Ryu was really strong because he was able to kill all the best warriors with a single blow. The man informed the boy that they had to hurry up and finish what they had planned before dawn. They went inside. After the master dealt with a couple more guards of the place, the guy kept marveling at his strength. Entering the sacred hall where the sarcophagus stood in the middle, the boy told the master that they had come to the right place. Suddenly, the flower in his hand seemed even brighter. The guy was wary of such an action and didn't understand what was happening. The boy asked Master Ryu what was going on with the flower, and he only laughed menacingly and didn't answer him. The man approached the sarcophagus, telling the boy not to be afraid because he had already made his choice, adding that everything was going according to plan. After Master Mu opened the sarcophagus in which lay this dragon scale that shed light on the dark room of the temple, the master said that he had finally managed to find the last part of the divine relic that he had been searching for so long. The only scale was turned the other way. The man made sure that this was the weakness of Aztagak's Black Dragon. The man thanked the boy for taking him to this place, assuring him that everything happened only because of him. Ananta turned to the master and asked if what he was looking for had happened. Then his sister would recover and would not be sick anymore. He wanted to hear the truth about it. The boy asked if he had any hope of doing so, since he doubted Master Ryu's actions for some reason. Putting his hand on the guy's shoulder, the man stated that people are very stupid. The guy looked at him wonderingly. The one pointed out that it was time to pay for his sins. Suddenly, the man grabbed the guy's hands and started trying to shove him to the scales that lay in the sarcophagus. The guy didn't understand what the master was doing. He got scared. The magical flower acted on one unfolded scale, and the bright light blinded the guy who was holding the flower, and his body was pierced by intense pain. A powerful beam of light rose into the sky. It was visible far away from this place. Ashita, seeing this beam, started to worry, for her brother assumed it happened in the Dragon Gorge. Suddenly, the entire county was plunged into a powerful earthquake. Tribe members woke up in a panic and did not understand what had happened. The dragon sleeping for 100 years in the cave was also affected by this earthquake and began to wake up. Opening his eyes and spreading his wings, he flew up to where that powerful beam of light was happening. The men in the tribe tried to figure out what was going on, since there had never been such cases in their lifetime. Suddenly, one of the men pointed his finger at him, and everyone raised their heads and saw that a dragon was flying towards them. As dagakanem ertet, kias as oka, akia hatalom isteni ereyet kivanta, esmereskedet egi isteni relikviahos. Ruby was shocked at what he saw and felt sorry for his master, who had been tricked into using him for monstrous purposes. Ananta lost his hands from touching with the divine relic he saw that next to him was Ruby. Raising his gaze, the wounded fellow saw that Master Ryu had abandoned him and went towards that beam in which the divine relic had appeared. The man was pleased that after all these years he had managed to get this. He was not sorry that at his hands the lad had suffered. Grasping the relic, he called for a miracle to come that transcends the limits of this world. The light became even brighter. The clothes on the man vaporized. He managed to grab this object that resembled a flower. Pointing sharper than this object, he stuck this divine flower directly into his chest, intending to obtain divine power. The divine plant worked on this man's body. The power transmitted to him flowed through his veins. Master Ryu was reborn, a new being, now possessing divine power. He sat on top. Coming to his senses, the light beam disappeared. The dragon, who had rushed to this place upon seeing this man, realized that he was not in time and managed to get divine power. As Dagaka informed Master Rao that he had touched the dragon's only weakness, asking if he knew what it meant. The dragon introduced himself as Dagaka, ordering the man to state his name. The man looked at him calmly. Suddenly, the man changed his appearance and introduced himself as Giyeo behind him, huge wings spread out. Guy Yo added that he was the embodiment of wings, arrogantly looking at the dragon that did not surpass him in strength. The guy noticed the monsters that were near him and didn't understand how it could have turned out like this because he trusted Ryu's teacher, as Dagaka intended to deal with the insolent creature who dared to touch the dragon's weakness. The dragon felt that within Guy Yo's body were hidden treasures that only belonged to the gods. Looking at the enemy dragon, it seemed impossible for even an incarnation to combine all the divine treasures in his body, asking what he had done to the real treasure masters. Giyeo ordered the black dragon not to ask the obvious. He continued to stare at him with arrogance. The incarnation of wings informed Azdagak that he had sent them all to the other world and took the revelations behind him. Magical spheres appeared. Giyeo began to attack the dragon, who deftly dodged his attacks by saying that Azdagak had given his revelation voluntarily, and that was why he was so visibly weakened. Incarnation of Wings noticed that the even dragon had become a mere ghost of the divine era, assuring that he would personally crush it. As Dagaka pointed out to him that he could try to do it if he had the strength, he directed a pillar of fire at him. The enemy had no trouble clunking from his attack. The black dragon began to chase him. He began to fly away. Both creatures climbed too high. Ananta Bleeding had lost sight of them. He had not envisioned what consequences would befall him. As Dagaku continued to pursue the wing incarnation, creating many magical seals who tried to attack. A multitude of fireballs rained down on Giyeo, who used his strength to resist this attack. A powerful light attack shattered the black dragon's fireballs. A bright sigh illuminated the night wasteland. As Dagaku took note of his magical powers, creating many sharp spikes around himself with a flap of his wings, he aimed the magical spikes at his opponent. Noticing the dragon's attack, the incarnation of Wings decided to take counterattack measures by aiming light spikes at him. The black dragon saw that the enemy's light spikes had destroyed his attack and were heading towards him. The tribe spotted a bright orb that covered the light of the moon and illuminated their entire territory. She didn't realize what had happened. Ashita was even more worried about her brother, who left without a word to her, and the rest of the tribe suspected something wrong. The boy tried to rise to his feet to get to his graying. Ruby didn't understand how this man had so much strength. Ananta saw the huge body of the black dragon fall to the ground beside him. She didn't realize what had happened. As Dagaka was unable to match his opponent's attack and lost in this fight, his body could no longer move. Giyeo was pleased that he had managed to tear the opponent's heart by indicating to the black dragon that he had lost. The man declared that now he had succeeded in actually reaching the heavens. He began to climb higher and higher. When he saw what was happening, the guy cried because he just wanted to help his sister, but in the end, he helped the monster to take possession of the divine relic. As Dagaka, upon seeing the black dragon heir, realized that he was the one who helped this incarnation of Wings, Ananta tearfully began to beg the dragon's forgiveness, for he had not meant to do so, trying to explain that he had tricked him into finding this place. The dragon pointed out that this was a very pathetic attitude, and now the demon god had to leave this world in regret. As Dagaka told the guy that he would not forgive his deed, he cursed him out of his body. An angry spirit appeared. This was the first time Ananta had met and heard of the demon god. He did not understand what he intended to do, trying to beg his forgiveness for his act. The soul dragon began to rise into the sky, leaving a trail of fire behind him. He intended to punish this man. As Dagaka went to the settlement where the sister of the guy who betrayed him was. When he saw this, the guy started running to the village with his last strength. Seeing the soul of the dragon people were horrified, not understanding what happened and why Dagaka appeared to them in such a form. Suddenly, the dragon began to sizzle this settlement, leaving no one alive. People could do nothing about it. Ashita, as well as the rest of the tribe, died in that fire, without realizing how they deserved such a punishment from the demon god. Running into the village, the guy couldn't believe that everyone was dead, and his sister, she realized that it was his fault. The soul of Dagaka approached the boy, and he thought that he too would suffer the same fate as the members of their tribe. The guy's assumptions turned out to be wrong, and the soul of a demon god got possessed by this guy who betrayed them all with his rash act. Ananta ceased to be an ordinary man after such a fusion with Dagaka's soul. His hands recovered. Dagaka pointed out to the guy that now he would forever be surrounded by nothing but doom and destruction. The boy came to the realization that he was shackled in an unknown dungeon. Having previously watched the Black Dragon fail again, Giyo informed Zizu that he had traveled a long and winding road. Nadia heard that they intended to return. She could not believe that Ananta had lost to him in this fight. A rift of space formed the trio intended to return to their sanctuary. The girl continued to follow them. Nadia turned to Guy Yeo and pointed out that Ananta had spoken of him as a creature who thought he was God, adding that the child beside him was undoubtedly a real incarnation. The girl asked him to answer her because she didn't remember anything before meeting him, assuming that they were somehow connected. Guy Yeo replied that Ananta was the same boy who had shown him the place where the last artifact he needed was located. The man explained to her that everything in the world is just a collection of causes and effects, and when that connection is broken, everything disappears. Wings Incarnate stated that such a thing he calls fate leaving. He added that he would look forward to their next meeting. Hearing this, Nadia didn't quite understand what he meant by hearing him call her the embodiment of nature. Sometime later, in one of the hot springs, an unknown man was taking water procedures while immersed in his thoughts. Suddenly, His Majesty's peace was shattered by two servants reporting that news had come of Lord Bernguard returning from the southern frontiers. His Majesty replied that it was the best news he had heard in days. Coming out of the spring, His Majesty pointed out to Mira that if she brought bad news, she would get a slap on the wrist. Mira reported that according to the messenger, along with Duke Bernguard, go one incarnation and two people. His Majesty asked that it is an incarnation of wings, but the servants did not know such details. The maid informed the queen that, as usual, it would be better to see everything with her own eyes and draw conclusions afterwards. A few days later, Duke Bernguard managed to get to the kingdom he served instead of his companions. Nady Veteran Bernguard was like Anantha on a bit of a worry when they entered the city they had been walking to for so long. Earlier, Duke had introduced himself and told her that he too had a personal score with the incarnation of the wings, and then invited them to the headquarters of the organization he served. Bernguard gave the reason why he wanted them to follow him in the past battle, but what really interested him was the power Ananta possessed. Nadia found it strange that when the battle was over, Whitefoot disappeared without a trace, suspecting that she might have had something to do with it too. Nadia could have gone anywhere but decided to go to the northwest continent to meet someone. It was reported that Duke Bernguard had arrived, and most of the warriors gathered to meet him in the throne room. One of the warriors noticed Nadia and looked at her with suspicion, assuming that her appearance was no good. Then Her Majesty Queen Nadia came out to the arrivals and certified that it was human, which calmed her down. The first princess of the Munguk Valkyrie race of warriors actively opposing the incarnation of the wings sat on her throne. Ragelsa Einherjar, the head of the Leviathans, informed everyone that she had arrived and they could begin their meeting. Veteran Bernguard greeted Her Majesty. The woman was glad he had finally arrived. The queen declared that enough formalities were enough, suggesting that all those gathered go straight to the results of the expedition. Bernguard reported that according to the plan to get to the Temple of Cafes, they had to defeat a group of gladiators and provide cover. The man reported that there were some unforeseen circumstances in this plan, but eventually he managed to get into the temple. Veteran Bernguard added that it was there that he encountered Guy Yeo, the incarnation of the girl's wings. The warriors were dumbfounded to hear this. The queen asked what happened. Then the duke replied that immediately afterward he engaged with his opponents in battle, but to his shame lost. Ragelsa Einherjar assumed that he had returned in disgrace, and without information, she was saddened by the duke's action. The man pointed out that defeat as victory are part of a warrior's life, and the number of these situations does not matter, promising that he would eventually get rid of the incarnation of wings. Upon hearing his words, the queen rejoiced, saying that she now recognized her Bengard veteran. The queen indicated that, more importantly, she wanted to know who the incarnation behind him was by poking at Nadia. Duke apologized for not introducing her sooner, saying that it was Nadia Nature Incarnate, who was part of another group pursuing Wings Incarnate. Veteran Bernguard has informed Queen Regelsa that this girl is their new ally, who has agreed to help them in their cause. The Duke added that in gratitude for her help during the expedition, he had brought her here and presented her to the Queen. Regelsa Einherjar asked where the others were, and the assistant reported that it was hard to call them members of the group because there was only a man and a little girl who offered them cooperation in exchange for their treatment and protection. The aide added that the girl was fine and they would later give her to a foster family. The Queen became aware that the fellow savage was lying unconscious in the infirmary. His condition was extremely serious, being badly maimed. The aide said if Her Majesty wanted, they could bring him here by force. The Queen replied that it was not necessary to do so. The Queen said hello to Nadia and decided to walk over to her. The girl stood obediently in front of Her Majesty. The woman introduced herself as Regelsa Einherjar and extended her hand. She seemed friendly to Nadia. The girl bowed to her and thanked the Queen for the warm welcome. They shook hands. The Queen asked the Wanderer what she expected from cooperating with the Leviathan. Nadia thought for a moment. Regelsa Einherjar told her that if she was an infiltrated spy, she had better admit it at once. Nadia reported that a branch of the tree had been embedded in her body and she wanted them to tell her what they knew about it. Suddenly, the cat girl pointed out to Regelsa that she shouldn't listen to the tales of nature incarnate, smelling something wrong. Looking at Nadia, the cat girl stated that she could smell that this girl reeked of the incarnation of wings, suggesting that she had a branch inside her that she had gotten from a winged one. Regelsa Einherjar asked the girl that everything claimed about her was true. Nadia did not want to deceive them. The incarnation of nature agreed with the cat girl's words, saying that she could still feel the branch resonating within her after meeting the incarnation of wings. Nadia assured that despite that she really didn't know anything about her and asked her to tell her. The Queen assumed that it was Bernguard who had told this girl about the branch. The Duke replied that without Her Majesty's consent, he had no right to share any information. The woman looked at Nadia and realized that she might be the one the wing incarnation was looking for, and this was an extremely good chance for them. The Queen was about to continue her explanation when a servant rushed in to tell Her Majesty an important piece of news, interrupting their conversation. Regelsa Einherjar asked the aide why he was barging into the hall during the meeting. The girl apologized for his act, assuring that the matter was of the utmost importance. The aide reported that there is now a massacre in a civilian neighborhood. The spiritual power was consuming the body of the boy who had fallen victim to the Black Dragon betraying him, and revealed the place where his scales were stored to Guillot. The Black Dragon had taken possession of his body, and the boy could not regain possession over his own body. Ananta realized that he was losing himself, and his consciousness was slipping away, being consumed by hatred and suffering. When he noticed the village that was burning down, he rushed towards it in the form of a lizard-like creature, intending to see what happened there. The creature began to approach the burning village with quick movements, leaving huge footprints on the ground behind it. Arriving at the site and finding no survivors, the monster screamed furiously. The guy was unable to do anything about it. Ananta, in the form of a monster, stood and watched his village burn down, realizing that what happened was his fault. The guy managed to take control, then the monster's body began to dissipate, and he managed to use his appearance. His arms recovered. Ananta remembered the look on his sister Ashida's face, who had wished him a good journey for the last time. The brother bent over the breathless body of his sister, whom he could not protect, but thought his act would cure her. Ashida's breathless body lay motionless. His brother, realizing that he himself had made the wrong decision that had ruined his entire village. Grabbing his sister, the guy screamed all over the place from the heartache he felt at that moment, and he couldn't do anything about it. He vowed to exterminate Guillot. Suddenly, a girl with rabbit ears appeared in the village, who heard the guy's screams and decided to approach him. Ananta came to his senses, and realizing that he was seeing memories from his past life, he didn't realize what place he was in. The mouse girl approached the boy and addressed him in her own language. Ananta did not understand what she was saying to him. Looking at the creature, he couldn't understand where he was or what she was trying to tell him with her words. Ananthanu thought the girl was strange, assuming she was the incarnation of some animal. Rising from the bed, he realized that he had no time for such reflections. The girl was surprised that the wounded guy so nimbly jumped up from his seat. The boy intended to find Guillot, who defeated him in the last battle, as soon as possible. He wanted to avenge his sister. Suddenly, after taking a few breaths, The guy was bleeding from everywhere, and he realized that his body had not fully recovered yet, but he could not delay. The little mouse girl saw his condition and was worried about him, not understanding why he had to go up there wounded. Ananta wiped the blood from his face. He had difficulty in breathing and could hardly see anything because of the blurred vision. Suddenly, the guy's strength left and his body collapsed to the floor. The fly girl was dumbfounded by the way the guy treated his health. After coming to his senses, the guy realized that it was payback for the overuse of the curse the mouse girl had left him. Ananta walked out into a city he had never been to and didn't understand how he had gotten here. Passers-by who saw the wounded guy were shocked that he was moving on his own after being crippled. The guy didn't pay attention to passers-by. He was getting rid of the bandages that covered his body as the wounds had already healed. And Nathan was curious to know where he was, for he was not familiar with this place, which was very large, but the sky was not visible, realizing that he was in an underground city. Suddenly, the guards appeared on the guy's way and ordered him to stop. He didn't understand what happened. The girl guard told the guy that he looked suspicious, making sure that he was obviously not a local resident. The guards ordered him to surrender without resistance, assuring him that otherwise they would attack him. Ananta replied to them that he had no intention of giving up and let them try to fight him. Suddenly, a stranger intervened in their conversation, stopping their conflict. The stranger asked if they'd seen their little baby. The guards assumed he was talking about an owl. Suddenly, Ananta noticed a familiar symbol on the man's hand, which interfered with their conversation. Earlier in his childhood, a girl with rabbit ears had asked Anant to memorize this symbol that could help him find the embodiment of wings. A guy at a young age to learn that all followers of the wing incarnation had such a symbol on their body. Ananta, seeing his sign, tried to touch her shoulder to find out more details, but a sudden attack made him dodge the stranger. The man's blade passed right next to the eye of the guy who intended to talk to him. The guy managed to avoid hitting the man in time, who reacted very quickly to the approach. The stranger apologized to the guy for his actions and told him he didn't like being touched from behind. Ananta was furious at this act and decided to beat him up, but the stranger dodged his blows, making sure that the man was selenium. The stranger pointed out to the guy that he wasn't a bad attacker, assuring him that it was his turn to attack. The man looked at Anant and noticed that he looked as if he was about to fall to the ground alive, for he could barely stand on his feet. The man noticed that while the guy was weak, he had a very powerful warrior aura emanating from him that was difficult to control. Ananta intended to talk to the stranger about the mark on his right hand. The man decided to listen to the guy. The boy asked what he had to do with the incarnation of wings for a moment, and there was an awkward pause between them. Suddenly, the man attacked the guy without answering his question. The people around him, noticing this altercation, started in the greenhouse to get away from them. In time to notice his opponent's lunge, Ananta managed to dodge his sword, realizing that his opponent was quite agile. The stranger continued to launch attacks at his opponent, but the guy dodged his attacks with lightning speed. The man's attacks cornered the guy, and he realized that he couldn't just avoid a fight like this. The man told him that if he wanted answers to his questions, he should try to force them out. Having made a powerful blow on the opponent, the man was surprised that he did not dodge in any way, but was not injured. The stranger saw that this guy was using magic power that was beyond the reach of an ordinary person. The man asked his opponent what it was. With his hands, he prepared to continue their battle. One of the girls ordered the assistant to immediately request reinforcements as soon as possible. The assistant proceeded to comply. The guy's hands began to resemble dragon paws, which he used to attack his opponent. The man tried to strike at these hands, but the blow was useless, and he managed to dodge the blow in time. With a series of quick attacks, Ananthan failed to catch his opponent, who was dodging him with lightning-fast movements. He wasn't sure if he would be able to withstand a point-blank attack with his sword. The man realized that this guy was far from being in the best condition to fight, but kept pushing him. Suddenly, the man noticed that his opponent had opened up for an attack. He decided to use this moment to strike. The enemy's sword passed through Anant's body. The man thought that this was the end of their battle, and he was victorious. The guy's body started to become covered in scales after the damage he received, healing the wounds he had received. The man's appearance began to change, and he began to look more and more like a fierce monster that would destroy everything in its path. The man, noticing these changes, decided to move away from his opponent to a safe distance to avoid unnecessary injury. The guy's body continued to change. He shouted frantically to the entire surroundings. The opponent was confused by such actions of Anant. Surrounding people who heard his scream froze on the spot. From horror, they did not understand what kind of monster appeared in their city. The lizard-like creature began to attack its opponent, who moments ago thought their battle was over. As he began to draw his sword, the man noticed the rapid approach of the monster that was about to slay him. Suddenly, the man felt a fear he had never felt before. For a moment, he froze in place. The man heard from behind his back that someone had ordered him to quickly step back and not get involved in this battle. Ul noticed that Ragelsa Einherjar had lunged and intended to deal with the monster. A powerful blow from the queen of this city caused the lizard to abandon the battle with a man who couldn't handle him alone. Ananta, being in the form of a monster, hesitated seeing the multitude of warriors who surrounded him from all sides. Nadia tried to calm the warriors by assuring them that the creature was not their enemy. Asking them not to destroy it, Berngard asked her not to get involved. The queen pointed out that the creature had harmed her people, and she had no intention of keeping it alive. Ragelsa Einherjar declared that right here, she was ridding the world of one of the demonic monsters she had prepared to strike. The queen was surprised at the actions the monster took upon hearing her words. She did not expect such a turn of events. Those present saw the monster begin to tear the wound it had received. Ananta tried to show that he had no intention of fighting them. The creature's powerful claws parted its flesh, revealing the body of the man the creature controlled. The people around him were shocked to think that he was destroying himself, and it was the first time they had seen something like this. The huge body of the monster collapsed to the ground. After that, the body started to dissipate and Anant's body showed up. Nadia was worried about the familiar. Ragelsa Einherjar asked who the hell he was being stunned by his act. She looked at him. Ananta lost consciousness. The queen decided to spare this guy who did not fight her, but showed submission. As per the queen's instructions, Ananta was imprisoned in a dungeon with guards to prevent something like this from happening. Nature Incarnate was placed under custody supervision pending Ragelsa Einherjar's adjudication. The queen's servant reported that they were now looking for witnesses, assuring that the scene had been an eerie chaos. One of the assistants assured that soon rumors would spread around the fortress that might affect Her Majesty ambiguously. The queen stated that they are all aware of what happened. She has called an emergency meeting to discuss it. Ragelsa Einherjar said that the main issue at the meeting would be a foreigner named Ananta, and she intended to make a decision as soon as she heard the views of those gathered. The fourth commander of the Leviathan incarnation of ferocity, Rupa, asked how much longer they would keep this monster in their fortress, suggesting that they simply send it to another world. The third Leviathan commander, swordsman incarnate Ul, pointed out to Rupa that she was too violent, assuring that Ananta was a curious character who could be used to her advantage. The second commander of Leviathan Battle Incarnate, Tarkan, said he didn't care what decision the queen made. Ragelsa Einherjar asked Veitran Berngard if he knew of the abilities of this man he had brought. Leviathan's first commander, the epitome of bravery, Duke Berngard, replied to the queen that he knew of such a thing. Rupa was dumbfounded and asked why he had brought such a creature to their fortress, not realizing what he was thinking in doing such an act. Duke Berngard agreed with their statement that the presence of the creature had caused havoc in their fortress, but he still felt they should leave it behind. The first Leviathan commander pointed out to the queen that Anant's power is undoubtedly very great and dangerous, and he absolutely harbors a hatred for the incarnation of the wings. The man added that if they took control of this power, it would become an extremely useful weapon in their hands against Gai Yo. Duke Berngard's decision was to keep this guy as a supporting force for the upcoming battle. Rupa didn't understand how the queen could listen to such foolish suggestions. The fourth Leviathan commander, Rupa, the embodiment of ferocity, turned to Ulu, who was fighting the creature, adding that if he had been more serious, he would have killed it with one blow. The third commander of the Leviathan incarnation of swordsman Ul replied that her words were not particularly true. Considering that the fight he himself had imposed on him, he agreed with Berngard's words that this guy could be useful to them. Owl reported that if Ananta had fought seriously to the very end, none of them would have left in one piece. Rupa, the embodiment of fierceness, was surprised to hear his comrade's statement, for she was sure that he was superior to Anant in strength. Queen Ragelsa Einherjar informed the audience that she had made a decision about this guy. Then a messenger rabbit foot girl walked into them, claiming she was the nicest of all the agency employees. White Feet appeared at the behest of Queen Ragelsa Einherjar, ready to do her bidding. Meanwhile, Ananta was shackled, awaiting the decision His Majesty would make. The girl asked how Mr. Ananta was doing. She feared he would run away with his tail between his legs, but there was no need to worry. The girl with the rabbit ears entered the dungeon where Anant was being held. Catching a glimpse of him, she was losing her composure right from him. The queen and the Leviathan commanders were waiting for the rabbit-eared girl to clarify Anant's account. White Paw, being an information gatherer, expressed her homage to the great queen and the glorious heroes. Rupa didn't understand who he was or how he had gotten here. Ul was also surprised at the sudden appearance of the information gatherer. The third commander of the Leviathan incarnation of Swordsman Owl noticed that Raclette had also come to them along with Ruby. The man stated that his sweet bird would flit away if he looked away for a second. The queen asked the commanders not to make a commotion, explaining that the Whitefoot has powers that can transcend space. Duke Veteran Bernguard asked Ragelsa Ikerjar who it was. The queen replied that the Whitefoot is a high-ranking member of a group known as the Rabbit's Foot. The queen reported that before their return, the Whitefoot had offered her a deal that she found very tempting. Whitefoot asked the queen if she is interested in a force capable of destroying the incarnation of the wings. Rupa stated that she had calculated everything ahead of time. Ragelsa Ikerjar was interested in the deal offered to her and asked the White Paw to tell her more about all the terms. Whitefoot was happy that their conversation was going so well and wanted to create a strong alliance between Leviathan and Rabbitfoot. Rabbit's Foot intended on his part to utilize all resources to destroy the incarnation of the wings. By freeing Ananth, the Rabbit's Foot wanted to give Ragelsa Ikerjar's kingdom the epitome of revenge. Rupa interrupted her and said that the White Foot was talking nonsense and should not be trusted. She did not understand the claims made against her. Suddenly, Ananta appeared in the room and asked the White Paw how dare she lie about her superiority. Those around him were surprised by the lad's statement that no alliances were needed, and Ruby's cooperation noticed his master. Ruby broke free and started running to his master, who had not been seen for a long time and thought he was dead. Ananta told the audience that he would be the one to get rid of the wing incarnation. Everyone looked at him suspiciously. When Rupa saw the guy, the epitome of ferocity, she was furious and said he should be in jail. Rupa didn't understand what the guard was even doing that she let him escape their dungeon, but she didn't know that they were mesmerized by the Rabbit's Foot veil. The embodiment of ferocity, Rupa waited only for the queen's order that would allow her to beat the crap out of this guy. Ragelsa Einherjar ordered Rupa to calm down, for she wanted to listen to Anant, who had come to them. The queen was curious because his body was covered in scars, and that meant he had been in many battles. A frenzied energy emanated from him that simply stunned those around him. The queen had never before encountered such a thing, assuming it was a bloodbath in the flesh. The White Paw presented to the queen and commanders the strongest trump card of their organization, Anant Ragelsa Einherjar, allowed that he is the embodiment of revenge. Suddenly, the guy grabbed the girl with the rabbit ears by the head, and she immediately stopped talking, realizing that he was still upset with her. Ananta asked her, since he became the property of the Rabbit's Foot, assuming that she wanted to go to the other world, saying such a thing. Suddenly, another silhouette of a girl with rabbit feet appeared behind their backs. The guy, meanwhile, started squeezing the head of the white-pawed girl. The girl hugged the guy's arm and said that he had lost to the incarnation of wings, and he shouldn't behave like that in the presence of important people. A Rabbit's Foot employee stated that he would find it difficult to go it alone, assuring that he needed allies. Blackfeet made sure her partner was having a hard time. Whitefeet agreed with her words. White Paw reported that Ananta, losing control of himself again, suggested that the adjustment of the guy's powers was complete. The queen asked the boy if he could really defeat the incarnation of wings, because the other commanders didn't trust him. Whiteleg tried to answer Her Majesty, but the guy kept squeezing her head, thus making it difficult for her to answer. The queen pointed out to the white-legged woman that she was asking Ananth, and she should not interfere in their conversation. Ragelsa Einherjar informed the guy that his background was of no importance to them. He looked angrily at those around him. The queen still had some doubts about him, but she had also seen his power with her own eyes. Everyone gathered in this place had one goal: to destroy the wing's incarnation. This goal also served as the basis for the creation of their organization. The queen informed the lad that the man with whom he had engaged in a fierce battle owl was the swordsman Incarnate. Ul was once a member of a clan that served the incarnation of the wings, but the clan was destroyed by one of its members with a grudge. The man vowed revenge and burned the mark on his arm with his own hand, and the queen gladly accepted him into her ranks. The queen, now looking at Ananth, saw the wild rage he felt for the incarnation of the wings. The guy asked her name, and the woman introduced herself as Ragelsa Einherjar, and they exchanged glances. Letting go of the white-legged guy, asked what she wanted to know if he could overpower the incarnation of wings. The queen nodded positively. The boy assured that he has a power that has almost no limits. Hearing this, the queen smiled. Ananta added that the more cursed beasts he absorbed, the more power from them he gained, and his power was able to grow indefinitely. The young man declared that once he regained his full power by devouring the monsters, he would tear apart the incarnation of the wings, instructing the queen to cooperate with him. Rupa heard his words and was furious at the insolence he had allowed to be used against Her Majesty. Ragelsa Einherjar laughed at hearing the boy's statement. She was pleased with the boy's insolence. The queen realized from her seat and went towards the guy. The surrounding people did not understand what could happen now. The woman swore by the honor of the queen that Leviathan would ally with the embodiment of vengeance. White Paw rejoiced at this outcome. The queen turned to Skaldar and Mary, and they approached her, ready to listen to her orders. Regelsa Einherjar ordered his subordinates to bring Nadia to them to discuss their next course of action. Meanwhile, Barahan went to the doors he was ordered to go inside. He opened the mighty doors to this hall. The minion of the Wings incarnation saw that this hall was being tested by Ziz, who had defeated the huge creature. Many dark looks fell on Barashon, who had entered to them. They were pleased to see him. Ziz, who had defeated the monster, looked at Gai Yeo, laughed because he had not disappointed his progenitor. Gai Yeo informed Barahan that they were in this place, celebrating the birth of a new brethren they had brought from another space. Kneeling down, Barahan reported that he had gathered everyone as ordered by Gai Yeo. He was ready for further instructions. The incarnation of Wings ordered a minion to open the passageway. Barahan immediately closed his fists. After his actions, a portal to another dimension formed behind him, shattering the space they were in. The passage turned out to be a space in which there was a huge number of monsters that started screaming, noticed the guests. Many different kinds of monsters were contained in this place that Gai Yeo had come to, and they began to react to him. The man calmly watched the reaction of the creatures that were under his control. Gai Yeo had them memorize that all they had been rejected by God, the monsters continued to react violently to him. Barahan looked at the creatures that were in this place. He could not know his master's intentions. Looking at Ziz, Gai Yeo informed them that they had all lost their human appearance by becoming slaves to evil spirits, and that they would never get it back. The monsters calmed down upon hearing the words of the Lord, who commanded them to know the depths of the humiliation of this existence. Gai Yeo pointed out to them that they were not worthy of recognition. They were despicable eternal slaves to the weaknesses that were imprisoned in this place. Then he began to unfold his wings. A bright glow began to illuminate this dark place. Gai Yeo stated that it was proof of their lowliness by asking if they considered their existence worthy. Incarnate Wings descended to the monsters, informing them that it had surpassed the limits of the worlds and was destined to cross the boundary of the world of the eternal and pass into the reality of the higher creatures. Gai Yeo pointed out to the monsters that if they dared to challenge him, they must be willing to deny themselves and throw off the shackles of the cursed flesh. The man ordered the monsters to show him what they were capable of, promising that those who stood strong could receive the blessing of the Wings. When the monsters heard his words, they were surprised because it meant that they could move to a new world without being stuck in this place. The huge gorilla began to shriek furiously and beat his chest, intending to destroy all the opponents who were in the place. The monsters began beating their own kind to earn the blessing of the Wings they had been promised. The ongoing fight in this place amused Gai Yeo, who was watching them. He began to furiously taunt them. In the meantime, the servants brought Nadia to the king, as the girl had asked, not knowing what their conversation would be about. Regelsa Einherjar greeted the girl who had been brought to this room. They intended to discuss the plan to destroy the incarnation of the Wings. Nadia walked into the hall and noticed Anant, who was surrounded by two girls with bunny ears. White Paw said hello to the girl, stating that he hadn't seen her in a while. Nadia was surprised she was here. Looking at the girl, who was also standing next to the guy, she didn't know who she was or what she was doing here. Regelsa Einherjar asked Nadia to relax, assuring that she had convinced the rest of the council not to pressure her. The girl made sure that a moment ago Ananta was far more unstable than she was now. She thought it strange. Looking at the guy, Nadia was sure it couldn't be a mere coincidence. He stared silently at the table. The queen informed the incarnation of nature that they had just finished talking to Ananta, and now the two of them had to listen to her. Regelsa Einherjar announced that the two of them can officially become members of Leviathan. The guy and the girl were surprised by this statement. Guy asked the queen, who told her he needed it. Veteran Berngard said they didn't care if it was a temporary alliance or not. Duke added that they needed Anant's power to track down the incarnation of the Wings, and he would be able to count on their help while with them. The man turned to the girl and said that the answer she was looking for could only be obtained by entering into their union. Berngard said that from now on the conversation would turn in an unpleasant direction, for them being sure that Nadia was ready to hear the answer to her question. The girl assumed that she had already had time to express her willingness to them in preparation to hear the answer. Nadia asked them to tell her everything they knew about the branch imprisoned within her. The queen said that Mishteltain was another name for a branch of the world tree. Regelsa Einherjar learned of this from Berngard's report, assuring that Nadia herself had seen the cursed creature's transformation into incarnation during the Battle of Cafés. Nadia realized that the woman was talking about the child that had emerged from the monster's body. The true nature of the branches was related to the power of the blessing of the Wings, worked as a catalyst that promoted the evolution of the cursed being in incarnation. Hearing the explanation the girl wanted to hear, asked what it all meant. Veteran Berngard answered her that under the influence of Gi Yo, she too had become an incarnation and was born of the blood of an incarnation of Wings. The man added that Nadia's appearance was the result of the branch's influence on her, suggesting that her original form was that of a demonic creature. Nadia refused to believe it, because it seemed to her such an illogical use of power to embody wings. The girl added that if the power of the incarnation of the wings is really akin to the divine, she did not understand why to use it on a demon and not on another incarnation of the queen, realized that with Nadia will be difficult. The queen explained that the power of the branch could turn the incarnation into a demonic creature. Ragelsa Einherjar saw it on the day the Valkyrie of her homeland died when she was still a child. Memories from her childhood days came flooding back to Ragelsa Einherjar as she remembered how their ship had left the shore in bad weather. Little Ragelsa, already in those days, was deprived of her left eye. She noticed the storm that had risen in the sea. The girl noticed that an incarnation of wings appeared in the sky above them, but at the time, she didn't know what he could be dangerous. Then, from the depths of the sea appeared a huge monster that intended to attack the ship on which was Ragelsa Einherjar. The incarnation of wings turned the incarnation of Valkia's country into a demon that began destroying everything in its path. Nadia was listening to the queen's story when suddenly someone said that it was nonsense. Turning around, the girl realized that it was Ananta who said it. Guy pointed out that based on the queen's words, this girl is now either a servant of Guillot or a monstrous demon. Looking at Nadia, he stated that compared to Valkyrie, Nadia couldn't even hurt a fly. Vatran Berngard explained that this is why she is special, suggesting that she stands closest to the edge of the world that Guy Yeo is looking for. The young man was surprised to hear about the boundary of the world. The queen had assured him that this was what the incarnation of the wings was looking for. Ragelsa Einherjar reported on her family's tales that have been passed down from generation to generation. The border of worlds is the edge of the universe on which the world tree grew. Meanwhile, the demons were finishing their battle at the behest of Guy Yeo. Only one monster was able to survive this fight with the rest of the wings. Incarnation's goal was to break through this boundary and enter the world of gods. Ragelsa Einherjar reported that this is why Guy Yeo creates creatures in which the shoots of this tree can sprout. The power of the branches was so great that only a small fraction of mere creatures could bear it. He laid a branch into the defeated monster. A huge demon began to radiate from behind the branch of the tree that was submerged in his body. The incarnation of the wings was conducting this selection specifically to choose the strongest demon. Demons who could hold the power of the tree inside the body could be counted on their fingers. One of them tried to match this power. The monster was unable to control the power it received and broke apart, flooding everything in the area with its demonic foulness. Ragelsa Einherjar decided to move on to the main purpose of their meeting. Nadia, along with Anat, were ready to listen to her proposal. The queen reported that they wanted to find out what branch possessed Guy Yeo. One of the creatures roamed the wasteland. The woman intended, with the help of Nadia and Anant, to subdue one of the royal family's former guards, who had been turned into a demon. After all the explanations, Ragelsa Einherjar stated that they needed to get on with their goals. Turning to third rank Commander Ulu, who possessed excellent fishing skills. The queen also turned to fourth rank Commander Rupa, who was the epitome of ferocity. Ragelsa Einherjar ordered these two commanders with their units to go on a mission to the lands of Paz. Ananta had heard that the queen intended to establish good relations with the locals, where their vanguard would be stationed. Nadia realized that the queen's goal was to destroy all demonic creatures occupying the lands of Paz. Ragelsa Einherjar wished the warriors good luck on this mission, ordering them all to return back alive. 3 days ago, the White Foot told me that in the north of the continent, in the secret Valkyrie fort, under the command of the queen, there were 500 soldiers and some mercenaries subordinate to Berngard. Under their protection were several thousand civilians. Whitepaw reported that all of the queen's closest advisors were incarnations, and among all the coalitions against the incarnation wings, Leviathan was considered the most powerful and combat capable. The girl with the rabbit ears explained that now that Ananta had been defeated at cafes, they should think about new alliances. Nadia assumed that this had been their plan all along, from the contact with the Leviathan to the audience with the queen. Whitepaw replied that she had understood everything correctly, even though their participation was unexpected. The girl with the rabbit ears reported that they had gained powerful allies, hinting at Anant and Nadia, as well as the queen. Whitepaw stated that Ananta's power was a double-edged sword, as long as he was able to contain the demon's power and influence. If Ananta can't consume the flesh of demonic creatures, he will lose his mind and immediately turn into a monster. The girl asked her interlocutor who the girl was. The girl replied that it was a Blackleg, and Tun is also a member of the Rabbit's Foot. Black Paw was able to use hypnosis to keep Ananta's power in check, but it was only a temporary solution, and he still needed to hunt demonic creatures to keep himself in check. White Paw informed Nadia that since they were talking about it, asked if the girl would like to make a deal with them too. Nadia asked what kind of deal she wanted to make with her and was surprised by the offer. The interlocutor asked the girl to help Ananta overpower the incarnation of the wings. In return, they could guarantee her safety. The white stalk indicated to Nadia that she was the keeper of the branch's attention-grabbing embodiment of wings. The girl with the rabbit ears said that when the time came, Giyo would definitely show up for Nadia's soul. Suddenly, the White Paw didn't expect her to refuse the offer of cooperation. Nadia replied that she wished no one else had been sacrificed to this incarnation of wings. Remembering the many breathless bodies, the girl declared that she could no longer stand by, helplessly, and just watch everything. Nadia said that she didn't need anything in return from the Rabbit's Foot organization. Whitefoot realized that the girl agreed to help them. The girl with the deer ears said she would cooperate with them to protect people who might be hurt by Gai Yo. Scratching the back of his head, White Paw pointed out that it was hard to call it a deal, but they had no other options. After shaking hands, they sealed the deal with a handshake. The White Paw reported that the negotiations had been successfully completed. After White Paw intended to initiate Nadia into their plan, the girl was fine with that and began to listen to her. Queen Regelza used the power of Ananta to repel the ancient capital of Valkyrie White Paw. Thotnor had already begun preparations to take over Folkvan. The cursed land, over which even the death of the ruler of these lands had no power, was called as Pazoi. Nadia assumed that the interlocutor was telling him about the incarnation of Alacona's holiness. She was surprised that she was aware of it. White Paw reported that Paz was once a sacred unicorn, one of his 6 first incarnations, and he served the patron god of the Valkyries. According to Regelza's memories, after a fight with the incarnation of the wings, Alacon turned into a demonic being. White Paw assured that with a 99% probability, it was due to the influence of the wind of the tree. Ananta intervened in their conversation, deciding to speed up White Paw's story by telling them that they needed to take revenge on the demon that had destroyed the country. The guy added that they also needed to shred the demon and get more information about the branch. The young man approached the table, turning to the White Paw, and ordered it to take him to the place where he should bat. White Paw pointed out that there was no limit to this guy's impatience and tried to defuse the heated situation. The expedition intended to depart in 3 days. The White Paw used his magic clock to open a portal to the desired location. A huge portal appeared, through which the army intended to pass. The White Paw went first to this place. A squad of 2 Leviathan commanders, totaling about 100 fighters, intended to pass through this portal. The fighters of these units were mostly brave girls who were ready to fight monsters. White Paw asked for the coordinates of Folkwang because they could go there any time. Incarnate swordsman Uhl turned to the squad, asking them all to fight and complete the tasks assigned to them. Rupa, being the epitome of ferocity, ordered her troop not to die. The captain stated that it was too early for them all to go to Valhalla, and the squad was encouraged by his words and was ready to go on duty. Black Paw noticed that Ananta was all excited about the upcoming task. The guy nodded positively in response. The guy stated that he would bring anyone to their death. Nadia was embarrassed by his partner's rude remarks. After passing through the White Paw portal, the squad leaders ran out of there first, trying to scout the situation in that place. Rupa felt with her animal instincts that there was someone down below and hurried to warn Uhl. A huge demonic entity sensed the presence of uninvited guests in this place, intending to get rid of them. Nadia saw the monster and used the Yggdrasil technique, and wooden horns appeared on its head. Many branches fell on the beast that dwelled in this place. The other warriors were not in a hurry to engage in a fight yet. The wooden horse that Nadia had created with the Ippon technique appeared, and the 2 creatures began to fight each other. The demonic creature managed to defeat the enemy, but his forces were not left to fight with the rest of the warriors who were waiting for him. Suddenly, the monster was pounced upon by Ananta, who intended to overpower it and take its power to curb the powers of the Black Dragon. The guy's powerful attack fell on the creature that was able to overpower the enemy and went to the other world. The others watched quietly as Ananta dealt with the huge monster of this world, and Uhl marveled at his strength. Commander Owl looked at Nadia and said that this mission would be much more fun than expected. Rupa was a little jealous of Anant because he had such a powerful force. In the meantime, the warriors slowly began to leave the portal and descend down the tree to the bottom. As they descended, they saw the already defeated monster. Ananta, along with the Black Paw, sat waiting for further instructions while waiting for the rest of the warriors to come down to them. Black Paw noticed that the time on the clock was nearing 8 o'clock in the evening. The girl with the rabbit ears reported that they are on land that won't get sunlight. Sometime before, the queen had assembled the commanders she intended to send on this expedition. Ragelsa Einherjar explained to them the plan for the 3rd and 4th squad to work together. Folkbang consisted of the plains except for the closely connected coastal areas of the north. The commanders learned that this was originally a kingdom of Alacrons and spirits, and in the past, Valkyrie could repel external threats with their help. The queen reported that now it's just a huge army of monsters filling those lands with doom. Ragelsa Einherjar advised them to create a stronghold from where they could start their breakout, asking the two of them to organize a forward base. Commander Owl asked that they really needed a fortress in that place, since they could just use the power of the Whitefoot and the Rabbit incarnation. The queen reported that there was one drawback to this plan of limiting the White Paw's ability. She could not directly infiltrate the kingdom. White Paw's ability was limited to moving to the safest place, and so they need to establish a defensive base. Ragelsa Einherjar reported that currently, only the Ironwood Forest located in the south of the kingdom is available to the advance party. Further advancement will be impossible without establishing a stronghold. The queen added that this mission was dangerous, and safety could only be guaranteed in close proximity to the royal highway, and to prepare for it, it was necessary to utilize the allied forces of Ananta and Nadia. Rupa told the queen not to worry about nothing, confident that only her and Owl would be enough. Ragelsa Einherjar ordered the team of the 4th Squad not to oppose her order. The girl realized the seriousness of the upcoming task. The queen ordered the commanders that after a week, they were to meet Ananta's group at the main base. Ragelsa Einherjar indicated to her comrades and commanders not to die on this mission, asked them to return to hug their comrades. Nadia asked Ruby to use her fire technique and get rid of the deceased monster's body. The lizard began to sizzle the breathless body as the girl had requested. She stood silently watching the fire burn. 4th Squad Commander Rupi noticed that this girl with deer ears was not as simple as she thought. Looking around, she noticed that her squad had already completely moved into the area, and they were ready to move out. Rupi noticed that away from everyone else, Ananta was sitting in the company of a Black Paw who was watching over him. Commander Ool noticed that his comrade was not hiding her displeasure towards Anant, saying that she was about to enter the forest and should have been a little more quiet. The man added that, in any case, these creatures were now their comrades and they would fight together. Rupa stated that it pissed her off. The girl was surprised that Ool called them comrades, for to him, it was disrespectful to those who had left them before, to those who could be trusted with their lives at any moment. Rupa said that those were real comrades, and these people had nothing to do with them. She could not accept a guy whose origin was unknown to her. The commander of the 3rd Squad noticed that Rupa had gone to Anant, who was sitting far away from them, assuming that she was going to settle the matter. Walking up to the guy, the girl asked that he had swung his fist once, and was already panting, indicating that he was weaker than she had imagined. Rupa added that an ally who can't move a muscle without a guardian can't do much good on a mission. Ananta asked her to stop voicing such displeasure and go about her business without paying attention to him. Rupa indicated that Ragelsa Einherjar was interested in the power he possessed, but she had a different opinion. The girl with the cat ears said that Ananta did not have full control of his powers, for even when he fought a calamity, he limited his strength for fear of falling into madness. Nadia was surprised to hear their conversation, asked what it meant she, along with Ruby, had managed to get rid of the monster's body. Rupa explained to her that it was like dealing with a bomb that could go off at any moment. The guy got up because he didn't intend to listen to her. Ananta repeated that the 4th captain should have minded his own business and not interfered in their affairs. The embodiment of fierceness pointed out to the guy that enough with the empty dialogue, she had come to be furious. Rupa ordered the guy to take his team and get the hell out of here, promising to report to the queen that he along with the team got scared and ran away. The girl with the cat ears pointed out to Anant that if he refused to do as she told him, she would tear him apart right there on the spot. The guy looked at the angry girl with arrogance and asked if she wanted to hear his answer. Releasing his aura, Anant ordered Rupa to disappear. Before he sent her to the other world, he too fell into a rage about it. Suddenly, a Black Paw intervened and ordered them both to stop figuring things out between them. Suddenly, Rupa's consciousness moved to a place where there were many breathless bodies of monsters. The girl didn't understand how she ended up in this place, not realizing she had been subjected to the magic of the Black Paw. Suddenly, the girl noticed that there was a hole in the wall and light went into that place. She closed herself off from that light. Rupa saw that Ragelsa Einherjar and her warriors had come to rescue her, and she did not understand what was happening. The Black Paw mesmerized Rupa, asking Ananta to stop it. The guy was surprised that she was asking to avoid a fight that Rupi herself had put up. The girl stated that no matter who started this argument, the guy was crossing the line. She had applied the enchanting hypnosis of emptiness on him. Suddenly, the guy pushed away his partner who was standing next to him. The girl didn't realize what happened. Raising her gaze, the Black Paw realized that the guy was just trying to save her from the monster's surprise attack. A huge snake was about to kill the guy who saved his partner. He ordered them to leave. Rupa stood motionless, hypnotized. The third captain noticed that Rupa was standing motionless next to the huge snake that had swallowed Anant. A huge snake surrounded the tree next to where Rupa and Anant were, and the rest of us couldn't see what was going on there. Owl ordered the squad to quickly take up defensive positions, and 10 men to follow him to support Rupi, intending to drive that snake away. Unexpectedly, the commander saw a herd of demonic horses rushing straight at them, and he shifted his focus from Rupi to those monsters. Upon noticing the monsters, Nadi used the Yggdrasil technique, and the many roots that appeared from under the ground disarmed these monsters. The girl ordered all the warriors to get ready for battle because more monsters were approaching them, and the warriors began to prepare for defense. Nadia assured everyone that these monsters attacked in packs. People were convinced of her words as they noticed the sea of monsters that began to approach them. Rupi realized that someone had covered her mouth to prevent her from screaming. The girl noticed that Ananta was covering her mouth. She didn't realize what had happened, as she had been unconscious for some time due to the hypnosis of the Black Paw. Huge serpents prowled around trying to find the people who were hiding from them. A few minutes earlier, the snake had crawled to the shouts of the people who had made a showdown with each other in the area. Finding himself in the body of the snake, the lad intended to get out before he was digested, so with him into the mouth fell Rupa in an unconscious state. Ananta used his strength to tear apart the body of the huge snake that swallowed them. The snake didn't realize what had happened to it. Its body split in two as the man managed to break free through its gut. The head of the huge snake struck the ground and made no further movement. Ananta began to gradually climb out. The guy realized that he was in a depressing situation with Rupi, who had been under the influence of hypnosis all this time. The girl stepped away from the hypnosis and began to remember the mission and the place she was in. Getting up, Rupa was surprised that she was alone with Anant, who was glad that she had come to her senses. The guy pointed out that she was the lucky girl. The girl was outraged, asked what kind of appearance he had without noticing hers. Suddenly, the girl noticed that she too was differently dressed. Ananta asked if she remembered how she got into the snake's mouth. The guy pointed to the snake's body, adding that they had miraculously managed to get out of it alive. He assumed that the others would come crawling to them now. Rupa was surprised to realize that this guy had been protecting her the whole time she had been unconscious. Looking at his body, the guy noticed that his wound regeneration was too slow, realizing that he wouldn't be able to fight for a while. Guy pointed out that his partner's behavior was toxic, suggesting that the liquid in the snake was close to acid. Rupa was surprised that he could analyze what he was immersed in. The girl asked how much time had passed, allowing that her comrades should have already come. The guy felt the presence of the monsters. Suddenly, Ananta grabbed Rupa's hand to hide from the intruders. The girl didn't realize what he intended to do. Rupa didn't understand where the boy was dragging her to because she was sure that their safety was not in danger. Ananta, along with the girl, hid behind one of the trees. Rupa asked what he was doing. He asked her to shut up. The girl made sure that the guy really wanted to save her by covering her mouth. She noticed that several giant snakes had appeared near them. Rupa realized that the area they were in was surrounded. She assumed it was the land of snakes. Her partner didn't understand what sense of unease was haunting her in this area, assuming it was a demon or some kind of spirit. The girl asked if her partner wanted to fight. Ananta replied negatively. He explained that he couldn't fully control the curse right now. The guy reported that the use of powerful force without a black paw could result in an uncontrollable rampage on his part. Ananta didn't want to be eaten by snakes, indicating to his partner that they had two options to get out of here. The first option was to ignore the damage and fight the enemy until they were completely destroyed. The second option was to avoid the battle and join the allies to be reached. The guy left it up to the girl to decide, and she looked at him thoughtfully, realizing that he had dumped everything important on her. The girl suggested a third option, in which one could break through the encirclement and head to the original destination to leave the forest. Rupa reported that she can tell by smell where the monsters are and where the original destination is. A huge number of snakes were hunting their prey, and if these two encountered them, they would be immediately surrounded. Rupa said that if she joined forces with the reinforcements, there would be unnecessary casualties in their ranks. Guy asked if there was any viable option on how to escape from this area. The girl wondered. Rupa stated that she did not like the situation they were in and asked her partner to trust her. Ananta noticed that she had started moving out. He asked what she meant. Her partner pointed out that there was no time for chit-chat, asking her to follow her. Rupa, intending to change her appearance, asked Anant to climb on her back and hold on tightly so as not to fall. The snakes sensed the presence of victims who stopped behaving stealthily. They followed them. The guy riding the wolf quickly ran through the huge snakes that were trying to attack them. One of the snakes tried to bite the victims who had come to them, but did not think they would be able to escape her attack. The partners managed to disarm one of the snakes. To break through further, the rest of the snakes followed them. Rupa, in the guise of a wolf, noticed that they were being chased by several snakes that would be difficult for her to escape. Suddenly, the snakes began to lag behind. Ananta reported that her plan had apparently worked. Rupa informed him that they were almost out of the forest. Because they had avoided the snakes, the level of danger their companions faced might have been reduced. Suddenly, Rupa noticed that some unknown person sitting on a huge snake was waiting for them at this place. The guy noticed the garment this man was wearing. He was sitting and reading a book. He was not being attacked by snakes. The man saw the travelers and apologized to them, saying that no one could leave this forest alive. The partners realized that it was a snake charmer who intended to get rid of the uninvited guests of the area. The man began to create many snakes from the dark forces that were on the ground, ordering his creatures to attack the opponents. Suddenly, a multitude of snakes appeared and started attacking the two of them on their master's orders. Ananta noticed the fast speed of the snakes. He began to doubt if they could sneak away from such fast opponents. Suddenly, Rupa grabbed the boy's arm and threw him off the spot, intending to save him and take the blow of the snakes herself. The snakes pounced on the huge she-wolf, who had no time to do anything to them. The snake charmer was pleased with them. The guy was convinced that his partner had made a rash move and exposed herself to attacks, but he didn't want to leave her. Rupa couldn't handle so many monsters alone and decided to accept her fate. Suddenly, Ananta rushed to her aid and with powerful claws got rid of the snakes that had attacked the she-wolf and continued to approach the caster. Rupa scattered the bodies of the wolf she had fought in, informing her partner that now their problem was solved. The girl lost consciousness again as she spent a lot of strength on the snakes that attacked them. The guy grabbed her in time. The man asked what the guy was protecting his exhausted partner for, assuring him it was a waste of time. Closing his book, the caster looked at the boy with a cold, snake-like gaze, letting him know that their battle was not over. The guy, hearing his opponent's statements, ordered him to shut up if he didn't want to be beaten. Meanwhile, the herd of horses continued to attack the people who remained in the camp. Ul, along with the squad, got rid of the monsters. The incarnation swordsman intended to strip the monsters as soon as possible to go in search of the fourth captain. He used a silent strike. A powerful blow fell upon the monster that approached the swordsman's horse, went to another world. Using the battle spear technique, Ul managed to get rid of one of the monsters that attacked them. Nadia also managed to neutralize one of the demonic racers with her natural technique by twisting it with tree roots. After defeating all the monsters, the squad noticed that there were no casualties among them, which they were happy about. Owl told Nadia that there was something wrong, because two of their partners had disappeared without a trace after being attacked by these demons. The third commander, pointing at one of the monsters, told the girl that they weren't going to attack them directly. The man speculated that these monsters were trying to escape from predators and stumbled upon them by accident. Ool admitted that what had happened could be related to the giant snake that had swallowed the two men. Suddenly, a Black Paw intervened in their conversation, saying there was no time for such musings. Blackpaw told his partners that they needed to find Ananta as soon as possible because it could lead to bad consequences. The girl admitted that the situation could get out of her control and Ananta would absorb Rupi's powers. The guy tried to suck the poison out of the girl's body. The snake charmer repeated to the couple that their actions were futile and it was easier for them to accept their demise. The man told them that his snakes have the strongest venom, capable of poisoning even demonic creatures in the blink of an eye. The caster pointed out to the lad that she would not be able to carry her partner to the healer, in time stating that this incarnation of ferocity was already doomed. The man noticed that the guy didn't intend to give up so easily. His actions seemed strange to him. Ananta put Rupa on the ground, asking her to hold on for a while he dealt with this snake charmer. The guy claimed he was refreshing his snake of a partner, tried to stop him, but it was too late. Changing his appearance, Ananta intended to deal with this enemy and take Rupi to the Blackfeet who could cure her. The man pointed out to the boy that his flesh was imbued with the ominous aura of the curse, suggesting that it was what Beshrun had reported to him. The caster began to call out of the ground, and a lot of snakes started to come out of the ground, which he wanted to kill this guy with. The man introduced himself as Ezin. His body rose upward with the help of the serpents that elevated him. Izin Attack reported that he was the embodiment of blind faith. He ordered his serpents to destroy the enemy embodiment of wings. In one deft move, Ananta managed to get rid of the many snakes that were heading towards him. Izin was surprised that his opponent had so deftly defeated the snakes and approached him, attacking him. The embodiment of blind faith managed to avoid the powerful enemy strike in time, which destroyed the body of one of the huge monsters. Ezin made sure his opponent was fast, and he should have been more careful with him since he didn't want to lose to him. Ananta, in the form of a lizard, continued to pursue the enemy, destroying the snakes that he directed at him. The snake charmer didn't have time to dodge the demon's lightning-fast attack and received powerful damage to his body. The powerful attack amused the man who made sure of his inattention to his opponent. Aizen stated that the opponent's speed, strength, and agility are top-notch, but it is not enough to defeat him. Taking the true form of the embodiment of blind faith, Aizen grabbed his opponent by a limb and intended to devour him. Meanwhile, Rupa came to her senses. She noticed that Ananta was fighting the creature alone. She decided to help him. The girl realized that Ananta was endangering his life to save others. She thought the situation was familiar. Rupa remembered how she had asked Regelsa Einarjar why she sacrificed her own life for others. Regelsa replied to her that comrades are those to whom you can trust your own life unconditionally at any time. Rupa, too, was one of Regelsa Einarjar's comrades. Hearing this, she was surprised to hear such words. The girl apologized to Regelsa that her promise to return home safe and sound was unfulfilled. Aizen made a powerful swing of his fist, intending to kill his opponent without noticing that his partner had regained consciousness. Suddenly, the limb of the serpent was damaged. He did not realize what had happened. He saw that his arm had been torn off. Rupa, in the body of a wolf, managed to help her partner in overpowering this creature. She intended to get rid of it as soon as possible. The girl used the sacred blood cut technique. Aizen was subjected to multiple attacks from the opponents. Rupa fought the incarnation of the blind faithful with her last strength, assuming that after that, she would not be able to see her comrades. The she-wolf managed to disarm her opponent, who didn't expect such a lightning-fast attack, and was defeated. Aizen noticed that Ananta had begun to approach him, the lizard's huge maw, intent on devouring this opponent. The huge maw swallowed Aizen and began to take away his spiritual powers that helped to subdue Anant's rampage. Ahin fell into a bloody nightmare, not realizing what was happening to him or where he was. The divine branch that was in this creature's body shattered, unable to withstand the onslaught of the enemy forces. Suddenly, Aizen called for help. Quetzalcoatl being a huge dragon, he shepherded this embodiment of blind faith. The man apologized to the embodiment of conquest for daring to alarm him and ask for help. Aizen realized that he had failed in his mission to eliminate the unwelcome guests and regretted not being able to deal with them. Ananta, in the guise of a demon, howled in anger that Aizen had managed to escape him, but he had managed to draw dark power from him. The boy did not understand where the advantage of his opponent, which he had bragged about a moment ago, had disappeared. Ananta assumed that all those threats of Aizen's were just an empty bluff, for he had run away from him with his tail between his legs. The young man realized that he couldn't withstand another such powerful curse. He was upset that his opponent had escaped. Releasing a curse to consume a demonic creature was called extermination. Ananta knew that if the opponent was out of his control, the energy of the curse would devour the one next to him. Earlier, in order to keep Rupa out of their fight, the boy intended to think of something to do, because she might have fallen under his curse. Rupa, using the cut of the sacred blood, left further battle to Ananta falling beside them, without a sly. The guy was surprised that she helped him because he didn't expect her to sacrifice her powers for him. The huge she-wolf's body fell a motionless weight, beginning to dissipate. She used all her strength to help him. Strength overwhelmed the body of Ananth, who noticed that the enemy had escaped from them by summoning the embodiment of conquest. The feeling of an unquenchable flame raged inside the demonic body of the guy. The curse had used the strength of Rupi, who had been with him for moments. The strength he had gained for the curse was still not enough, and he shouted, intending to chase after Aizen. Ananta looked at the enemy who was flying away from them. He tried to think what he should do at this moment. Looking at the embodiment of the conquest, the guy realized that the powers he received were not enough to satisfy the curse. Spreading its powerful wings, the creature intended to pursue the enemy to seize the sacred branch of the tree that was in the enemy's body. Ananta promised that he would devour the opponents. Making a mighty leap, he towered and began to follow the fleeing ones. Rupi was lying unmoving on the ground. She had lost a lot of strength, and so she was unconscious and did not know what was happening. The guy remembered the words of his partner, who pointed out that the rest of the battle she was leaving to him. He decided to give chase and save the girl. Ananta brought Rupi to the camp, where their comrades were, so that they could give her medical attention. When she came to her senses, she vaguely noticed Nadia and Ruby sitting next to her. She didn't remember what had happened. Nadia was glad to see that Rupa had come to her senses, and was beginning to realize where she was, and that she had survived the battle. The bandaged girl asked what happened, and how they managed to save her in time, asking where Owl was. Nadia asked Rupi not to overexert herself because she was badly wounded, and it would be better if she didn't become a lizard. The girl told her partner that if the antidote had been administered a little later, she would not have been saved. Nadia pointed out that Rupi was lucky because Ananta had brought her back in time and the healers had managed to administer an antidote to the snake venom. Rupi was surprised that Ananta had gotten control of himself and saved her because he was sure that he would leave her and go after Aizen. Nadia didn't understand why she was so surprised. Suddenly a guy walked in to make sure Rupi survived. Ananta heard that instead of thanking his savior, Rupa was insulting him. The girls did not expect anyone to come in. The boy was stunned by this attitude because he had saved her. Behind him stood the Black Paw and Owl, who made sure that his partner was in a fighting mood. Rupa pointed out to her savior that he was all wounded and he too needed to heal. Ananta told her to take care of herself first, instead of staring at him. Leaving, the guy asked the girl to stop doing rash things and assured her that she should stop owing him money. Rupa was surprised at his reaction. Nadia stated that he treated her harshly despite saving her. The girl called him a fool, but deep down she knew he was right and decided to recover before the battle. After the campfire, Owl told the others that Rupa would be fine if given some time to recover, assuring them that she was a resilient girl in that regard. The third commander thanked Ananth for saving his comrade, even though he had to let his attacker go. The guy didn't care for the gratitude Nadia asked that he'd had a chance to fight one of Gai Yo's subjects. Ananta nodded positively and replied that it was an old man named Ezin who could summon snakes from his shadow. The guy added that the snakes were stupid clones, unable to act rationally, and judging by the fact that the snakes didn't destroy other animals, their task was to keep out uninvited guests. Ananta assumed that the snakes were meant to catch those who strayed into Pass's lands, but were suddenly ordered to return to their master. Nadia asked what that order was. The guy said he didn't fully understand what it was. The boy told them that he had a feeling that some part of Ezin's former branch had sprouted inside him. Blackleg agreed with his words, explaining that he had been feeling his curse much better lately. The girl with rabbit ears pointed out that he got such a strong effect from a small piece of branch. The Black Paw was curious what would happen if he swallowed the branch whole. Nadia looked at them thoughtfully. Owl stated that the sixth pillar of Zaphiroth, being the incarnation of the Blind Era, Ezin attacked his partner. Nadia asked the man what Zaphiroth was, since she didn't know who it was, or that she was curious to know about it. The third captain explained that Zaphiroth was an elite squad of chosen guarding incarnation wings. It included the 10 strongest incarnations, having the power of the branch. The most elite warriors were known as the 5 disciples of Gi Yo. They were the 5 highest ranks to whom the other pillars of Zaphiroth reported. Ul stated that Ezin's appearance in this territory meant that one of the High 5 might soon be welcomed. The listeners realized that the power possessed by the opponents is so great that any movement of the opponents can create natural disasters. Meanwhile, Ezin had reached the safety of one of the authorized towers that was far away from the forest. The man noticed the presence of an acquaintance, who indicated that he looked like he was shaken to the core by his loss. Guy assumed that who managed to break the pride of Ezin, who really didn't expect to face such strong opponents. The man believed that he could not escape the scorn of the embodiment of the conquests he had called to his aid. Incarnation of Conquest asked the man what his duty was. He threw an unknown object at him. The man replied that he was to block the way into Paz's lands and destroy those who were not subservient to his lord. Ezin saw that the head of a demon that had been dealt with by the people who had come to this place had been thrown at his feet. The man tried to explain himself to the second pillar of Zaphiroth, the embodiment of Gon's conquest, who was angry that he had failed in his task. Gon ordered the man to show him the way, promising that he would single-handedly crush the enemies who had come to this land. Then Gon used the space rift technique, and the ponies came to the place where Gai Yeo was. The guests saw that Barahan, along with Gai Yeo, were engaged in the election of a new incarnation that failed to handle the power of the branch. Barahan ordered the embodiment of conquest to stand still. He was surprised that he was forbidden to approach. Gan pointed out to Barahan that he had better keep his mouth shut, calling him a low-born creature. There was an imaginary confrontation between them because they did not respect each other very much, being sure of their superiority. The incarnation of Wings saw the guests and said that Gon was full of energy since he decided to confront Barahan. Gai Yeo asked the embodiment of conquest to listen to him, for he intended to talk to him about what had happened. Ezin took a knee, informing that he had arrived at the call of the incarnation of the Wings. Gon looked at the Lord in silence. The lad declared that he had no right to refuse the incarnation of the Great Wings. He was willing to hear him out. Gai Yeo reported that they had received information from a spy in Leviathan about the Queen's plans for an expedition into the lands of Paz. Gan assumed that the enemy's target was the incarnation of the divinity of Gi Yo, positively nodded, adding that she was following in his old footsteps. The incarnation of the Wings reported that what that was an attempt to nurture an inferior branch by ordering them to rid them of the fruit of error and return the branch to him. Ezin asked Lord Gai Yeo to entrust him with this task. He personally wanted to take care of the pathetic human specimens. Barahan asked Ezin if he remembered Balzac. The man assumed he had told him about the banished 10th pillar. The warrior confirmed his speculation by saying that it was a man cursed by the dragon Az-Dagaka who destroyed Balzac and became part of Leviathan. Barahon assured them that this strong warrior had managed to stand up to him, and the incarnations of the wings advised Gon to work together with the incarnation of the Holy Faith for safety. Gon asked Barahon to tell him the name of the enemy they feared, who said his name was Ananta. Ezine remembered what had happened before their meeting with Mr. Gai Yo. He feared Ananth, who had almost overpowered him. The incarnation of Conquest's slashing spear and Barahon's indestructible shield formed an almost indestructible alliance. The man realized that they were undoubtedly the strongest warriors of Zaphiroth, and at the same time, the most dangerous. Ezine supposed that the more dangerous one was Gon, for he had not a fraction of the respect and fear of Lord Gai Yo. It would be much better for Ezine to travel with the fourth or fifth pillar, not understanding why the Lord entrusted this task to Gon. Showing the flower bud, the man asked Ezine if he knew what it was and what it was for. The man replied that it was an inferior branch implanted in the unicorn's heart, curious as to what the unicorn was planning to do with it. Gahan stated that compared to him, she really was only a pathetic semblance. Ezine didn't understand what he was getting at. The man assumed that it was great, since they would fulfill the order given to them by Lord Gai Yo, but Gon suddenly threw out an inferior branch. Ezine was surprised at his action and asked what he was doing, because it seemed to him that without it, they would not be able to defeat the enemy. Gaon assumed that his partner had already forgotten what they had come here for. Looking at him, Gon smiled wickedly. Then near them arose a powerful glow that came from an incomplete branch thrown at them. Gon declared that he would destroy the enemies. The incarnation of Conquest pointed out that the demon ruling over the lands of Paz and the lower demons that would follow them. He stopped talking when he saw that he was staring silently at the glow. Gaon allowed that Ezine didn't understand why he was telling him all this. He saw the indestructible shield and the embodiment of wings. The partner showed the man that he had a unicorn horn that Mr. Guillot had once obtained. Breaking the horn, Gon realized that since the enemy had withstood Barahon and Guillot, he was a worthy foe to fight. The man decided to prepare an appropriate arena for his opponent. He awaited their battle with anticipation. Meanwhile, Ananta had no idea that he was about to face a fierce battle with the strongest opponent he had ever faced. A week had passed, and the squad had managed to finish all the preparations Queen Regelza Einherjar had asked them to make. After that, an army led by Regelza appeared in the portal, intending to finish what she had started. Rupa was very pleased with their meeting. Owl said he was all exhausted waiting for them to meet. The queen was pleased to see their vanguard intact. A multitude of warriors gathered to greet their queen. Regelza Einherjar, addressing Nadia and Ananth, pointed out that they both did a great job and did not let her down. Turning to Skulda and Mary, the queen asked if anyone else had come through the portal. Skulda informed the queen that 50 sisters from her personal guard of shield maidens were all in attendance. Ananta asked Regelza what it was like to stand on the scorched lands of her homeland, and she didn't expect to hear such a thing. The queen thought about his questions for a moment, as memories from her childhood surfaced in her mind. The woman looked around, trying to pull herself together as a fierce battle awaited them. White Paw informed Her Majesty that thanks to their message, she had already been brought up to speed. A week ago, a tall pillar of light was seen in the direction of the former capital. This phenomenon accompanied the birth of a new creature from the branch. Earlier, the Blackfoot reported to the queen that the appearance of the sixth pillar and the awakening of the branch had been recorded. Regelza Einherjar, hearing the report, speculated that it was most likely a trap by the enemy who had noticed their presence. Whitepaw informed Her Majesty that the situation was very different from the scenario he had previously calculated, and if she wanted to use Whitepaw's power in a critical situation, it would take at least 3 days. The girl with the rabbit ears asked if the queen was going to go forward after this. She turned to her army. The queen informed the warriors that they had arrived at their homeland, where they were born and raised. All began to listen to their queen's speech. Regelza Einherjar added that years earlier they had left these places under the onslaught of the incarnation of the wings, and then she swore an oath to all who left their bodies here. The queen declared that all who lived in pain and suffering, she promised them that she would return to these places and bring the remaining warriors with her. The woman believed that when it came, the souls of her fallen comrades would hear her call and rejoice in the restrained promise. Regelza stated that the victims who fell in this place were not in vain, for they returned to their homeland through their sweat and blood. The warriors listened to the fiery speech of their queen and were ready to follow her to the end, giving their lives for her. The queen addressed her compatriots, calling them brave, asking them all to fight alongside her. Everyone began shouting words of encouragement to their queen, letting her know that they would follow her. Ananta watched calmly as the army began to cheer their queen's fiery speech. Regelza Einherjar stated that their goal was Folkwang. The capitals began to trumpet the attack, and the army moved forward. The queen decided to leave the reserve troops in the rear fort and the rest to move out on an expedition with her being in the rear fort. Blackfeet asked the warriors to wait ops calmer. Blacklegs wanted to flank Ananta, but it turned out they were left like watchdogs to guard the house. White Paw thought her partner was upset that they were being put in the rear, then stated that she was very upset about it. The partner reported that Ananta's rage was no longer out of control, and there was nothing for a Blackleg to do on the front lines. Blackleg replied that whatever the outcome of the expedition, her abilities were vital to the squad. Whiteleg agreed, pointing out that the queen needed protection more than ever. White Paw understood that what Ragelsa in her jar needed was not protection, but a chance to survive this fight. The girl with the rabbit feet realized that the queen still didn't trust her, so she left them in the rear. Black Paw asked her sister if this sortie had any chance of success, since she thought such a thing was impossible. White Paw replied that they didn't care about the outcome of this expedition. She glared at her angrily. The girl with the rabbit ears wanted Ananta to become stronger, and she didn't care about the others even if they were wiped out. The squad encountered a snake on its way, which they were able to eliminate with an arrow shot to the head. Mary managed to get a lesson on the huge snake that was waiting for them behind the rocks, her partner prepared to finish it off. A powerful blow of the warrior made the snake go to the other world. The girls were glad that they so quickly coped with the monster. The others also began to fight the monsters that began to approach their squad. The queen ordered to keep moving. Ragelsa Einherjar informed her squad that they were being attacked from the right flank, ordering the warriors to close ranks. The squad raised their shields to block the attack of the huge snakes that approached them. Ananta, turning to his pet, informed that it was time to show them what he could. Ruby was fine with it. Climbing onto the shields, Ruby began to attack the snakes with her powerful flames that made the monsters give up their intentions. The guy was pleased that his pet's attack had worked on his opponents, and now it would be easier for them to defend themselves, realizing that there was no need for him to intervene in the battle himself. Nadia bravely fought the snakes using tree roots to rid the warriors of the monsters that approached them. Moving against the current, surrounded by a ring of enemies, he realized that this was a daring tactic, since any slip-up could cost them their lives. Guy was surprised that Ragelsa Einherjar was so confident in the strength of the allies, realizing that this was a truly stubborn woman. The queen was confident that the embodiment of blind faith reported to her with her help and vast experience in combat and training, they would be able to defeat him. Ragelsa Einherjar realized that they had already traveled far into the lands of Paz, but Alicon and his demonic creatures were nowhere to be seen. Suddenly, one of the aides asked Her Majesty to look at what was visible from the left flank. They had managed to reach the watchtower of Vigrid. Ezen waited for them in the area, stating that he was glad to see them. He was in anticipation of their battle. The man looked with arrogance at his opponent's incarnation of wings. He continued to create snakes from his shadow. The incarnation of blind faith assumed he would witness their demise. He noticed an arrow approaching him. With a deft movement, the man managed to intercept the arrow that was aimed at him, making him realize that their battle would not be so simple. Looking at the archer, the man realized that it was better to refrain from speaking high-mindedly on the subject. Ezen told his opponents that they were about to see what the old snake charmer's old man's rage was capable of. The warriors noticed a huge unknown creature that was about to drop a huge object on them. Noticing the intent of the opponents, the queen did not understand what it was and how they would deal with it. It was eggs with many snakes. The queen ordered her army to take up defenses and prepare for the enemy who intended to strike by air. Gayan asked the warrior for an unknown substance. Convinced that it would stop the men, a huge lump crashed next to the squad. Ragelsa Einherjar closed in from the debris that flew at them. People didn't realize what to expect from it. The queen was surprised to see a silhouette begin to form in the substance. The warriors noticed that a silhouette resembling a human had appeared. They didn't realize what it was. Ragelsa Einherjar, noticing that a creature with the body of a horse and a man had appeared in front of them, assumed it was Alicon. The woman ordered her squad to go as far into hiding as possible, for she understood what to expect from this creature. A huge eye appeared in the orb of this creature that intended to attack the humans ordered to incarnate. The snakes that were near him began to be swallowed by the incomprehensible substance, as well as the warriors who failed to escape. One of the girls intended to help her comrades who were captured by this creature. They ordered him to let them go. Ragelsa Eikerjar ordered her to retract her weapon, advising Skulda not to touch it. The absorbed bodies gave strength to this unknown creature that began to inflate before their eyes. Suddenly, the ball burst, and a huge monster resembling a unicorn came out of it, and he wailed furiously. Gon no longer underestimated his opponents, ordering Alicon to show them how great their difference in strength was. Suddenly, Ananta stood in Alicon's way and grabbed the monster by his horn, intending to slay him. The fourth commander used the Claws of Fury and the Seal of Sacred Blood, intending to help Anant with this monster. Ragelsa Ikerjar pointed out to Alakan that he need not fear, for she would take his life herself. She drew her mighty sword. The queen declared that she would take his life as befits a true ally, since she and he had previously been friends. Ananta rushed towards the monster who was about to kill them with his horn. Suddenly he felt something wrong. Alakan tossed his opponent into the air and intended to put him on his horn, but he didn't think he could do it. A portal sharper than a horn was formed and began to suck Anant into it. He didn't realize what was happening and couldn't resist it. Anant began to be drawn into this unknown portal, which began to rotate at an incredible speed. Rupa, noticing what was happening, began to worry about her companion, who had fallen into the portal and could not get out of it by his own efforts. Having been thrown aside by the powerful attack, Ananta could not get up, for his body was badly damaged by the creature. The girl intended to attack this creature that had damaged Anant with its portal and thrown it into the distance. Suddenly, Rupa noticed that the monster had formed many tails, which it intended to attack the enemy with. Uul rushed to his comrade's aid, confident that he would slice through this multitude of tentacles. He used the Claw of Fury technique. The man also used the chakram skill and with circular movements managed to chop up the many limbs that were attacking him. Sinking into anger, Rupa began to attack Alakan. Her eyes sunk into the darkness with intentions of getting even for her comrade. Uul noticed that his partner was being attacked by an acid attack, which he managed to save her from in time. The girl noticed that his partner was hurt because of her inattention. She didn't realize what this strange attack had caught up with her. Azine told Rupa that she had previously dared to take away his right hand and would now have to suffer for it. The man made a promise that he would personally rip her disgusting flesh off his bones for crippling him. Gan directed another venomous attack at them, intending to avenge his wounded comrade, as well as the snakes continued to approach them. Uul, seeing the monsters coming in the attack, realized that they were in a bad spot, and it would be hard to get out. Rupa changed her form and grabbed her partner and escaped the oncoming attack by moving to another place. Suddenly, a powerful attack hit Gan, who began to fall to the ground. Azin, seeing this, didn't understand how his opponent managed it. As she prepared to fire once more, Mary called upon the spirit of the free wind to grant her the power to pierce her enemies. The girl instructed the 3rd and 4th squads to take their places next to the commanders, while the rest were to stand at the ready. Taking on the form of a monster, Azin addressed the humans, calling them pathetic creatures who dared to interfere with their plans. Suddenly, Uul, riding Rupa, managed to climb up the tower to the top where Azin was, intending to launch a devastating attack on him. Rupa turned to the enemy and said that his hands were not enough to defeat them, but he did not expect such a turn of events. Uul made a powerful swing of his sword. Applying the rage time technique, the enemy began to attack them, feeling his superiority over them. The powerful attack made Azin convinced otherwise. His multiple arms along the left side of his torso were severed. Noticing that the enemy had collapsed, Uul and his partner assumed that they had gained the upper hand over him, and now he couldn't hurt them. Owl saw that he had broken his blade, declaring to his opponent that he had not an ounce of finesse. He regretted the broken weapon. Rupa indicated him to stop worrying about his weapon by asking what was happening to Ananta, who had taken heavy damage. A loud noise coming from downstairs caused the she-wolf to stammer out her comrade's concerns, for a new problem had formed. Gon, in the form of a huge serpent, collapsed to the ground and began to crush the warriors who attacked him with spears. Nadia intended to help Ananta, stating that his wounds were very serious, and he needed help. She asked him to pack. Suddenly, the girl noticed that there was a scuffle behind her between Ragelsa Einherjar and Alikan. The queen was knocked back by a powerful blow from a creature that began aggressively attacking her. Alikan intended to defeat the people who were in this territory by following the orders of the creator. The queen ordered everyone to take the defensive. The warriors began to build a wall of shields as ordered by her majesty. The girl felt a powerful blow that hit her shield. She didn't expect such a powerful attack. Alikan resolved their barrier with shields, scattering all the warriors in different directions. Those were shocked. The monster began to devour the warriors it threw into the air, as some of the warriors realized that they had underestimated the enemy. A sudden attack followed right on the neck of the monster that didn't expect this turn of events. Ragelsa Einherjar managed to deal powerful damage to her opponent, who hesitated and failed to dodge the blow. Nadia noticed that her majesty intended to remove her blindfold from her eye. The queen ordered the girl to speed up Ananta's treatment. The queen removed her blindfold and declared that to win, they would need the cursed power of Ananthus, or they would fail. The woman used her strength to make a powerful swing of her sword, from which the glow spread to a great distance. Using the Fragarak technique, she unleashed her wrath on her opponent, who was unable to avoid it. The body of the huge unicorn was defeated. Appeared again, the silhouette of a human. Ragelsa Einherjar felt sorry for her past comrade who had been influenced by the incarnation of the wings. The image the queen had so admired no longer existed in her mind. The times she had shared with Alicon resurfaced. Regelza declared to Alicon that he had become an ugly creature subject to the incarnation of wings. Raising her sword, the woman intended to actually end the suffering of her old comrade, who no longer belonged to herself. The queen made a powerful swing of her sword and aimed directly at the head of the opponent, who was once her comrade. Suddenly, the monster spoke, asking what it was Princess Regelza was talking to him with his eye missing from his mouth. Earlier in Regelza's youthful days, her subordinates were worried about her and asked her to come down from the tower because it was too dangerous there, that she was just a coward. Suddenly, they were approached by Alicon, who tried to persuade the princess to come down by asking her what she was doing at such a height. Princess Regelza asked them not to worry because she wasn't afraid of heights, saying that princesses stand taller than everyone else. The young princess turned around and was sure that nothing terrible would happen to her, because this was her kingdom, where everyone protected her. Regelza was sure that Alicon would always be by her side and save her in case of adversity. Such words came as a surprise to him. Smiling sweetly, the servant told the princess that she was right in her statement, but it was not worth risking her life. Alicon promised that he would see to it that she grew up to be a beautiful queen, intending to protect her for the rest of her days. Now, Alicon was not like himself, and his promises were not realized, for he had betrayed her majesty and fought against her. Regelza Einherjar heard him speak and recognized her, and paused for a moment trying to understand what he intended to say to her. Alicon asked the queen why he looked like that. His words put the woman in shock. After looking at himself, the creature couldn't believe that he was once Alicon, who was friends with Queen Regelza. The woman assumed that Alicon's consciousness had returned to him again. She asked what he remembered of her. Alicon asked to be released in his mind. Memories of what had happened to him and how he had gotten to this point surfaced. The earlier incarnation of the wings stormed into their kingdom and exterminated all the warriors who were in the throne room. Yeo tore out the horn that belonged to Alicon. He was unable to withstand such strength of the enemy that had come to their kingdom. Princess Regelza was very worried about her comrade, who was under the influence of the incarnation of the wings surrounding her, leaving the room in terror. Armed, the queen and her troop set out to rid themselves of the creature that had invaded their lands and taken Alicon's horn. With a powerful technique, Yeo sizzled all those who didn't want to obey him, and there was nothing they could do about it. The light beam hit right in the eye of the princess, who didn't understand what was happening because her mother died right in front of her eyes. Alicon pointed out to the queen that her Aita interrupted him, asked him to stop so she could understand what was going on. Suddenly, Alicon's eye reappeared in Alicon's ort. For a moment, there was a pause between them. Alicon stated, "It was just a rapture." The creature ordered to incarnate, and its body sank into a slurry that began to change its shape. Nadia rushed to help the queen get away from the impending attack. The woman noticed they were trying to save her. The unknown creature transformed from Alicon, in which there were many eyes. She intended to continue the battle. Ruby was shocked to see the creature, not understanding how it had managed to form in the first place. Meanwhile, Anata continued to recover little by little from the powerful blow he had been hit by. Ruby had transformed into a fire lizard and intended to help his master recover as quickly as possible. Nadia informed the queens that the enemy would continue to strike them erratically and she should keep her distance, adding that it would be wise to retreat and take care of the wounded. Upon hearing Regelza's proposal, Einherjar said she had no intention of backing down and wanted to see it through to the end, pointing out that she had simply panicked and lost her temper. The queen assured that Alicon had already reached his limit and should not be left running away with his tail between his legs. Regelza Einherjar ordered Nadia to gather all her forces and finish off the enemy with a final blow. Suddenly, the girls heard instructions to move out of the way and turned around, surprised because they thought such a thing was impossible. Ananta, in symbiosis with Ruby, had regained his strength and was ready to get rid of an opponent who was already at the redivision of his powers. The guy instructed the allies to get out of here if they didn't want to turn to ash. Nadia didn't realize what kind of new look Ananta had taken. Regelza Einherjar suggested that it is a tribal spirit that is similar to the one Mur uses. Ananta began to approach his opponent, intending to burn him as quickly as possible. The creature noticed the burning monster and began to emit screams. Being in his new fiery form, Ananta prepared for the attack. Gathering all his strength, he created a fireball of Heaven Devourer. The enemy once again created a semblance of a portal, intending to counter the enemy's fireball. The monster's counterattack was directed at Anant's fire attack. The surrounding people held their breath watching this battle. The two attacks merged into one, and there was a powerful explosion that erupted over a great distance, a glow that blinded everyone in the area. The monster realized that his technique had proven weaker, and the enemy began to approach him, plunging him into the fire. Ananta intended to take the creature down with a single blow, because now he was even stronger with Ruby's help. The monster turned into a spike, intending to avoid the blow. Ananta declared that they both had fallen victim to this winged Ji-Yo. He began to destroy its spikes. Ananta swung around to point out that Alicun was just a coward who had sunk into fear and couldn't do anything about it. The lizard-like creature asked his opponent how much longer he would cling to his pathetic life. A powerful fire traveled through the body of Alicun, who wondered why he would cling to such a life. His skeleton appeared to those around him. Nadia prepared to help Ananth, noticing a skeleton that she could grab with the Yggdrasil technique. The incarnation of nature managed to grab the opponent who had lost his consciousness and was under Gon's control. The eye, again, appeared in the mouth of the skull. The creature realized that his part of the reckoning for all the sins he had committed had come. Ragelsa Einherjar again prepared to launch a crushing attack on the opponent who had exposed his true colors. The monster watched in fear, but could do nothing about it, its strength leaving its body. The queen declared that by the Valkyrie's own order, she was giving her old friend's soul rest in peace. After these words, a powerful attack descended upon this creature, who was glad that his consciousness would belong only to himself. Body parts were scattered all around from the shockwave, and the battlefield was silent afterwards. Alicun realized that a blinding light had fallen upon him that sent him to the other side of the world, where calmness prevailed. A memory arose in his mind of him wishing he could stay close to the princess he had been with since birth. The last thing Alicun's consciousness saw was the body of the grown Ragelsa, who had spared her comrade from eternal suffering. The image of an old friend appeared before the queen, saying goodbye. One last time he was pleased with her action. The queen stood silently looking at the light that appeared in that dark place. She was sorry to say goodbye to her old comrade like that. Ragelsa Einherjar let a tear of sorrow fall as she promised to avenge him on the incarnation of the wings that had captivated him. Ananta changed his appearance to normal. Ruby stopped emitting fire. They watched together how the Corley reacted to her friend's farewell. Ruby looked at his master, who had just been lying on the ground without strength and was now fighting the monster. Ananta asked the pet from where he got the power he used to help him regenerate and ignite fire. The queen bowed her knee in respect for her fallen comrades in this battle. The light continued to shine on her. Nadia expressed her condolences to the queen, for she thought she was too upset about it. Ragelsa replied that it was necessary to pay tribute to the fallen. She realized that she had no time to shed tears because there were still opponents who could strike at them. The surviving warriors began to recover and help the wounded. After such a fierce battle, they noticed that their ranks had thinned. After the squad managed to crush an enemy tower that right before their eyes began to collapse, the warriors were happy about what was happening. Mary heard the queen's orders that they had no time for this sort of thing and needed to move on. Ragelsa Einherjar explained to everyone that they needed to move on so as not to squeeze the victims of the abyss for nothing in this battle. Owl looked at the surroundings they passed, trying to detect which way the enemy had fled. Rupa grabbed the wounded Ezin and asked him if he realized how much blood had been spilled for him. The old man was at his last breath. The girl told the old man that she would not let him just pass away quietly. He laughed at her in response. Rupa was furious when she heard that he was mocking her and started beating him up, making it clear that she was not joking. Ezin stated that it would certainly be far better for them to die on the same battlefield he had prepared for them earlier. Rupa was asked to stop beating this old man who already had one foot in the grave. The girl did not understand such pity for the enemy. Owl announced to his partner that this was not the end of their battle. He noticed a bright glow from the sky that shone at one point. The partners noticed an unknown person who started approaching them, being illuminated by a bright light. Gan intended to deal with all those who had survived the battle, realizing that it was a mistake to expect anything from Ezin. The warriors spotted the enemy along the main path, and all turned their gazes in the direction where Gon had appeared. The girls, being exhausted from the first battle, did not understand how they would fight against this opponent. Owl tried to report in the seed that the enemy at a fast speed began to approach them. He was shocked by his strength. Gan, at lightning speed, punched through the base of the tower that was beginning to collapse. He continued on his way. Suddenly, the epitome of conquest met the powerful fist of Ananth, who intended to stop him. Such a powerful blow created a flash. The lizard managed to stop the enemy that approached them. Ananta realized that this was the one Ul, the follower of Gi-Yo Gon, was talking about. He remembered the words he had been told about him. Earlier, Owl had explained to them that Gehan was the strongest of the minions of the Wings Incarnate to watch out for. Zaphiroth, an elite squad of select guarding incarnation wings that included dozens of the strongest incarnations. Ananta remembered the most elite warriors known as the 5 Disciples, the 5 highest ranks to whom the other pillars of Zaphiroth reported. Earlier, Owl had warned that Ahin's appearance meant that one of the High 5 would soon be coming to them. Ananta realized that Gon was as strong as Barahan, whom he had recently fought and defeated. Gon stated that he wouldn't have to waste time looking for him by asking the lizard that he was the Anant he had heard about. The enemy ordered Anantu to let him trample himself to pieces. The warriors, on seeing this man, went into a state of shock. Ananta just let out a growl in response, signaling that he was ready to fight him as he wanted. The opponents looked at each other. They, Ananatha, in the guise of a monster, tried to shorten the distance. Gan also started to attack him. Powerful blows clashed in unison. Gahan threw a series of quick lunges at his opponent, who countered skillfully. Gahan realized that the opponent had incredible physical power and had amazing fast regeneration. Incarnation of Conquest used the Pangolith Shattering Fist of the Great Crust. A crushing attack pierced the body of the lizard that failed to dodge the blow. Ruby sat on the lizard's head and worried about her master. Ananta tried to counter-strike his opponent, but he deftly dodged his attack. Ruby used her power again, and Anant's body plunged into the fire, thinking he could win. The guy, in the guise of a demon, prepared to launch a fire attack, using his maw, aiming the blow at the opponent. A powerful attack rained down on Gon. Nadia closed her eyes from such a powerful flash. Ragelza Einherjar did not avert her gaze. The queen noticed that Anant's condition now exceeded the capabilities of mere incarnation. Gayan managed to counter the fiery attack of the enemy, who put all his strength into it. Ananta continued to aim the fire beam at the enemy. With Ruby's help, he managed to increase his strength. The fire attack had little effect on Gun, who managed to block and prevent the damage. Nadia hurried to cover herself from the heat that broke out all around her. She used the Yggdrasil technique. After the flame subsided, the girl saw puffs of smoke, assuming that Gahan had died from the onslaught of the fire. Ananta waited for the smoke to subside to make sure his opponent had gone to the other world. Noticing Gon standing against him, Ananta said he was a monster for surviving his attack. The people around him didn't understand how Gon's body managed to survive such high temperatures. Ananta asked what kind of body he had. There was an awkward pause between them. Gahan looked down at the ground and started laughing frantically, the people around him not realizing what had happened. Suddenly, the man realized his look stated that he recognizes Anant as his rival. The one did not understand what happened to him. Gon added that his opponent is obliged to obey him. Ruby's strength was running low, so his fire technique was beginning to slowly deplete. The pet was shocked that they hadn't managed to hurt Gon. Ananta indicated to his pet that he had done a good job and now he could go rest. The demonic guy told Ruby that he was going to take care of the enemy himself. Gahan changed his appearance and told Anant that he was his opponent, ordering him to prepare for battle. The enemy wasn't going to celebrate victory until his breathless body was at his feet. His body resembled an armadillo. Preparing to lunge at his opponent, Ananta declared that enough of the idle musings. Gon's attack, Ananta realized that he must simply crush the enemy who had prepared to fight back. Gahan managed to block the lunge of his opponent, who intended to strike at him with his claws. The opponent threw Anant back with a powerful counterpunch, making it clear that things weren't going to be that easy. Ananta noticed that his opponent was preparing to attack using his whole body, and the scales of the monster rose up. Gon applied the pangolin technique by utilizing a swift kick. He headed towards the enemy. The powerful attack caught up with the lizard-like monster that tried to put a block on his lunge. Anant's block didn't help him. Gon broke through his defenses and damaged the body of the lizard, who staggered back from the blow. The lizard tried to strike back, but his opponent managed to block it in time, knocking his opponent back. Gain struck a lightning-fast blow at the lizard, who managed to avoid his attack in time by ducking his head.